All right, audio is really messing up today. All right, well, everyone, welcome. This is the ECBRO Discovery News Blogcast. Today we're going to do something a little different. Some of you guys are familiar with what we're doing tonight. We're going to try to extend it at least for a 2-hour special. I don't know. We'll see if it runs that long. Basically, this podcast show tonight was something, we'll probably get into some other discussions and stuff, but we're going to start off the panel members here. They're going to be starting off. They want to, ask me some questions for you guys to kind of help get some of you familiar with who I am and what I do. And a lot of you viewers and a lot of you guys, normal viewers, do know who I am and what I do. I believe there's a lot of new people around. I've been seeing a lot of newbies in social media. A lot of people just now getting into this, and they've been asking questions all over, and so everybody I think has been working great as a whole, kind of helping out with a lot of newbies because I've been watching a lot of it, and so I figured, hey, I think this is what every researcher should do, either if they do it on their own or whatever, how they want to do it. Everyone should present themselves to, let everybody know who they are. That way, the newbies know someone they could go to or get directed from, so forth. Well, it's Thursday night. Normally, our podcasts are every Friday and Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So since we have there's a camping trip. I'm leaving out in the morning to go camping for the weekend, for a 3-day weekend. This is just one of the few that we have lined up and scheduled coming up for the first start of this year. Now, following this camping trip, come Monday, this following Monday, we will have a follow-up podcast show around 7 p.m. to discuss or go over any potential evidence that was, discovered, found, or whatever. So further information will be updated on that. The podcast event for that is actually already listed. It's called Evidence Shared. So that's the upcoming show for that, which, like I said, we'll go over anything we come across from our outing. Again, and there is other events coming up here. I'll have to get back with you on the actual dates, but coming up in the month of April, we actually have an investigation camp out. Mr. Steve Peck, Fred, I'll get with you on this in a little bit, but Mr. Steve Peck, one of our other panel members, he's been experiencing a lot of activity right around his own home and on his property. And a lot of odd and strange happenings and findings right there at home. So coming up in the month of April, we are going to do a little investigation. We're going to camp out right there on his property, and we're going to see what's going on over there. We're going to see if we could have anything pop up, reveal itself, or maybe find it ourselves. So that's just one of the things coming up. And then the first weekend in May, Fred Canny and I, along with Lael and her cousin, we have a camping trip coming up in May. We're going to be doing some scouting around and doing some research, and I think that's going to be a pretty good time. So that's just a few to mention for the time being. Enough of me blabbering. Lael, I think we're going to go ahead and let you get started, and just whatever you have on mind that you want to ask. And then Fred, if she needs help, you could assist her until you officially take over. And I don't know what's going to be asked, so I'm going to answer to the best of my ability. So, And Lael, whenever you are ready, I'm gonna be quiet and shut up now.
Okay. My first question is, Daniel, what did you think and how did you feel when you saw your first Bigfoot track?
Well, when I saw my first Bigfoot track, well, for one thing, I know my eyes were about popped out of my head, and all kinds of thoughts were racing through my head. You know, I was so excited. I wanted to make sure it was what I was really actually seeing. Make sure I wasn't being deceived by my own imagination and my eyes. Um,
Yeah.
but what stood out to me, it was definitely humanoid. It was not no bear. Because I was at that time I was already well familiar with bear tracks, and the other thing that stood out to me was the length of the foot. It was actually, I believe, my first one was about 14-inch track, and it was about 4.5 inches around the heel, about 5.5 to 6 inches at the ball of the foot. So, but yeah, all kinds of thoughts were racing through my head. I was kind of excited, finding that little bit of evidence. To me, that was very incredible evidence, especially you know when you start going out in the field and becoming more observant. And
Yeah.
when these things start getting revealed to you, they actually, it's exciting, and sometimes it stays exciting. Even thinking about looking back when you first started finding all this. Um, and then even till this day, finding a track or a trackway is exciting. So, but yeah, it was very
Well,
exciting, blood pumping exciting. So,
I'm looking
yep.
forward to and hoping that in May we will get to see a track, something. You know. So I'm looking forward to that. Are you still, I guess, still today? You get excited the same
Oh yeah.
way anytime you run across a new track or
Uh,
something, or something you feel positively could be Bigfoot.
um, yeah, I tell you, one thing I get excited about is finding these specific, distinct structures. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, some of these structures, like what stands out to me is if they're shelter-like, and if they have breaks and twists in them that are new and fresh, knowing that it was just made, and trying to figure out what made it and how long ago, or where did they go, or are they still in that area? Those kind of things
yeah,
are what gets is exciting. Um, but yeah, if I come across a structure or shelter-like structure that looks like it was just done, yeah. But now, as far as yeah, what like for example, what you just brought up as far as their event coming up, um, yeah, I mean,
I'm
the,
excited. So's Beth.
yeah, I tell you the thought, yeah, the thought of something or finding something without even finding something is kind of blood pumping, because knowing what's out there and knowing what could be found is exciting. It's just a matter of exploring and
Yeah,
covering that ground and hoping to come across it. So, I've
yeah,
been out in the field quite a few times, and you don't always find stuff. I mean, but that's just the way it goes. It's like every time I go, I hope to find tracks, but I don't. I don't get. I'm not that fortunate. But
yeah,
I do look. I'm very observant when I'm out there. Sometimes I see impressions, and I try to document them and share them through videos. But of course, what I'm seeing in person is not showing up in video or pictures, which is kind of disappointing because people are like, what am I looking at? Well, I'm sorry you're not seeing it because I can see it for myself. Like when I'm looking through the camera at what I'm trying to show, I know what they're looking at because it is hard to make out on camera. So I do agree with them, and
it,
it is frustrating. So I kind of get to the point where I don't know if I'm gonna even bother showing this, because in person I see
it
it,
is.
but I know even on camera. So,
I try
but,
to,
like
I
a lot of
try
the
to
stuff I
always
post.
go ahead.
Oh
Go
no, I
ahead,
wasn't
Daniel.
saying nothing. That was something.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
I was going to say, I try not to judge a blob or a stump or whatever. I wasn't there. It might not have been a stump.
Right.
I wasn't there, and the camera doesn't show. It's like, all the years that we lived in the mountains, you all are near the mountains. When you take a picture of from an overlook or and the mountains are just for miles and miles out in front of you, and it's so gorgeous, and you take a picture of it, and the picture's just not as good as when you were looking at it yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's the same thing. You can't knock somebody if you weren't there.
Exactly.
Because it's different than seeing it yourself and the picture that comes out. Yeah.
Right, and I believe it's the same concept when somebody says they saw a sighting and they're being sincere about it. You can't deny that they didn't see something because hey, we weren't there. They said they saw what they saw. They described it. They gave it a description, and because we weren't there, we can't judge them. Exactly what you said, and I think that's the issue with a lot of people. A lot of people that might have continuous things or see more. Some of them are afraid to really say anything because they call a lot of people say, well, they think I'm bullshitting. Why bother saying anything more further? So and that's the thing. I think a lot of other people that ain't really involved on social media or in the Bigfoot community, like we are, there's people out there that have things to share or things they want to tell, and they're not going to because they don't know who to turn to. They don't know. Yeah, they don't feel comfortable with nobody. So, and that's part of what I'm trying to establish here, or as a whole. I'm sure Fred wants people to be able to come up to him, and know who he is, and say, hey, Fred, check this out. I was up here camping last weekend, and this is what happened. This is what we were hearing. Then we saw this. There's people that want to be able to do that. And the thing is, till they start knowing, who's available to talk to, and because they might want it and checked out. Someone who might have experience or experienced something that investigates and researches this. Yeah. They're just waiting for somebody.
They don't want to go to somebody who's going to run them down. They want to go to somebody who can say, well, it might be, it might not, I can't say.
Right,
but
exactly.
Not somebody who's just going to dismiss it out of hand and call them a liar.
Yeah. I've heard in some cases people will call law enforcement. And, I think law enforcement, I believe some of them do somewhat take it seriously, but yet, like, I don't know, I think that a lot of them get puzzled, like, really? Am I really responding to this kind of situation?
And are they told not to report it, just leave it alone?
Exactly. Like, for example, I think Fred is. Are you familiar with that 911 call where the woman reported seeing a Sasquatch and holding a young juvenile down in Southern Virginia?
It was two homeless people, wasn't it? A guy and a woman camping out.
That might have
kind of.
No. The one he's no, Leo. The one he's talking about. The one you're talking about, Leo, happened in Texas.
Yeah, this is here in Virginia.
This
down by down close to Tracy's area.
Yeah, down below Virginia. Yeah, a lady and her daughter was riding into town or going home or something, and they happened to see a female Sasquatch cross the road holding a baby.
Yeah, I think it was an elderly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was an elderly woman who called, and because there was actually they played the 911 call from the lady herself. It's on a news. It was on an old link. This happened, I believe, just this past year.
Yeah.
And the woman.
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah, I'll try to see if I.
The one I
Yeah.
was talking about was the homeless couple in the woods, and I'm sorry, maybe I cut you off, Daniel, and I shouldn't have. I apologize.
No, no, no.
But,
You're fine. You're fine.
but when you got up to baby and 911 call, the homeless couple called. Obviously, they had a cell phone, but they said it was toting a baby deer.
No, that was the one that
Yeah.
took you, Rick Dyer.
Texas.
That's Rick Dyer.
No, Rick. No, I'm talking about a 911 call.
Yeah, it was. It was a lady.
Right.
And
It was a lady who called the cops saying that they saw something big and it was carrying a dead deer or it was eating a dead deer while it was
something,
carrying.
yeah. But they were right outside of town in the woods.
Yeah,
They were
that was
homeless.
that was behind the Lowe's or Home Depot in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one Rick Dyer went in to say he shot Hank. Hank was the Bigfoot that was supposedly carrying a deer and eating it.
Yeah.
Mm.
But was the 911 call accurate or was it made up?
No, this one here was.
It was a real 911 call.
Yeah. I think they
Okay.
moved to the area because where the lady claims to have seen it, it was in somewhat of a rural area where there was some houses around.
Yeah, it was like outside of town, but just outside of town, and there was a good-sized wooded area or whatever where this homeless couple were camping
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever. But
okay.
she had a cell phone.
Yeah, that's part of that Rick Dyer documentary Fred's talking about. That whole BS documentary that Rick Dyer did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay,
the elderly woman that made the report, she was supposedly where she said she saw it. From what I understand from Tracy and the ones that know that area, I believe it is like that. That there was a rural area.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of wooded areas, but there was a couple of houses in the area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and on the 911,
No, I was saying, no, man, go ahead. I'll ask it in a minute.
Oh, okay. Now I was I believe they did try to investigate the area. I mean, they said there was some impressions or tracks there on the side of the road. But I think what they were trying to do, they were trying to make sure it wasn't some other person there standing there, maybe in a coat. But
Yeah.
but I think due to the time of year, it was very warm weather. So I don't think it was anybody wearing a suit.
Yeah. Upton
Yeah.
in a fur coat, holding a baby in a fur coat in May. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
All
right.
Go ahead, Fred.
Okay. When you get a call of a sighting and you go to that call, do you ever put yourself in their shoes and listen to what they're saying and how they say it? And do you, more or less terms, do you kind of put yourself in their predicament and the way they describe it? You put yourself in their shoes and you're looking at what they're looking at? Have you ever done that before?
Actually, yeah, that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And if you have, try to explain to me and to the audience how you would feel if you was in their shoes.
Terrified.
Go.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good question. First of all, right offhand, yes, I do. Because I kind of try to get the feel of the environment around me. I try to where they're trying to explain where they said they saw what they saw. For example, I could use the last one I went to investigate. Well, this ain't the very last one, but this is one of the very last ones I went to. And right in the area where where they had the report of a sighting riding up a mountain hill road, at first I was like, okay, yeah, this is a very squatchy area because I'm in thousands of acres of woods right here in mountains, and at the same time, the sighting was right off the side of kind of a busy highway that ran over top of the mountain, because a lot of people use that as a commute. But then when she was pointing out and explaining the details, which I pictured, I was visualizing, okay, I said, okay, this, I believe this woman is sincere. I believe she was seeing what she saw. Because when she couldn't believe what she was seeing, she didn't realize it till she nodded over to her daughter for her daughter to look up as she pointed next to the tree where the subject was standing. She, she didn't realize it. She was actually starting to go off the road a little bit, and so she wasn't just seeing it. Her daughter acknowledged what was standing there at the tree as well. Um, so I mean, in the area, it was like I said, there was there was no neighborhoods involved. It wasn't a rural area. The road was going up a mountain hill, and I crossed the road when I got there after she explained and everything. And I went up into the woods. I investigated, and just being in the woods itself and seeing the surrounding area and the terrain. I mean, you could kind of picture and visualize. Yeah, there was something here. Um, I'm now from judging from the road, the traffic, but at the same time judging from the woods and the mountain right there. I don't think the subject was going to cross the road because on the other side it was a straight drop. Um, I believe the subject was coming down. Possibly it was curious. Maybe it did want to try to cross up the road, but seeing that all the traffic was coming up, it decided to stay in the wood line.
Okay,
Um,
what was the what did they how did they describe the subject?
Very wide, probably
And
over 4 feet wide.
did you
What's
do a
that,
height
Leo?
comparison or anything?
Yeah, when I got over to the tree where she pointed the exact tree location, I had to
Uh-huh.
climb up on the. Once I got on that side of the road, I had to climb up over good 4 or 5 feet to get up to that tree. And when I got up next to that tree, that subject was probably a good 2.5 feet over top of my head. So here I am. I'm 6 foot tall. So that was almost
Yeah.
a 9 foot. That was almost 9 foot. I mean, another 2 feet. That's 8.5. Yeah, it was close to 9 foot tall. And she said it
Yeah.
was totally covered in hair and fur. She said she knew it was not a bear. She's seen plenty of bear. 'Cause,
Yeah.
driving that mountain road, a lot of bears in it, especially black bears. But she said it wasn't the fur or the hair was not black. It was brown. It was a dark brown. She said. And yeah, when she described the width of the shoulders, she said it was like bigger than a football player's shoulders. It was very wide. She said it was almost 4 feet wide. So yeah, I think we were looking at a giant. A good um, tall, heavy, muscular giant. um,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe her story was pretty well convincing, especially with her daughter taking notice and seeing what they saw. Um, so yeah, I mean, the whole time I'm in that area, even after I was done talking with them, I mean, driving back down the road, I'm still visualizing it, and the other thing on top of that, just a few miles south of there, I had another report. Some information. There was information shared to me. I didn't go investigate the location personally, even though I wanted to. I never got a call back to go actually check it out. But it was a husband and wife who told me a situation about. Uh, it was their mother's house, and their mother lives on the base of the mountain, and in so sorry, I had to mute you, Layla. I was getting feedback when I was talking. um, but yeah, nah, this specific location, uh, their mother lives on a house all by herself out on part of the parkway, and she gets all kinds of activity. She gets, you know, something hitting the house almost on a normal basis. They actually found large tracks going around the house, and they've the old woman experienced hearing different noises and howls close to the house. And keep in mind, like I said, this is exactly between 3 and 5 miles south of this very same location where this woman had her sighting. Um, and for me and Fred, knowing the location of the parkway, the way it runs, this is definitely a travel route for them. They worked the parkway. Um, so Fred's got him down on his south end of the parkway. I mean, and here this is reports and evidence of them on for like several miles from this is probably about well over 40 miles from Fred's location. Um, yeah, because this is going up on yeah, close to Luray, Fred, where this well not quite in Luray, but close to it
I know
on
exactly where it's
33.
at. Yeah, I know exactly where it's
Yep,
at.
right before you. Yeah.
I
So
have a question.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Leo.
Speaking of the parkway, now I know that there are pieces and parts of the parkway that are big bridges and viaducts and things of that nature. But we've always talked about Bigfoot following the parkway, from Georgia and beyond all the way up to Canada. And you know how so many roads, paved roads and highways that we have now were game trails
Okay. Well, actually,
and Indian trails and things. I wonder, was a lot of the parkway already a trail
Yeah,
back when?
now actually you're referring not to the park where we're talking about. You're referring to the Appalachian Trail. Yeah, that runs from Georgia to Canada, well up to Maine actually. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe well, yeah, you're right. Maybe I am talking about the Appalachian Trail.
Now
all
the
right.
Blue Ridge Parkway runs from all the way from Northern Virginia all the way down to I believe North South Carolina. Yeah, almost touches South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It
Mhm.
still could be though that part of it was already Indian trails, game
Now I
trails.
believe part of. Oh, absolutely. There's actually a lot of Indian territory that from here on down. From actually right where I'm going this weekend. There's um, some of the history I learned recently. There was actually old Indian territory, uh, Indian camping grounds that were right in that very area.
Yeah.
Just outside of where we're gonna be. So,
But
but yeah,
like
I
I say,
believe that
even
the Indians and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
lot of
I'm done.
their roads, whether they're Bigfoot around or not, a lot of their roads came from game trails and to start with because it was already a little path to go through, and game always takes the easiest path. And
Yep,
anyway, that is
least pass of resistance.
so, yeah, exactly. So it could be that the Bigfoot have been traveling these, for centuries anyway. So that
Oh
would,
yeah, I believe that's
So okay, well I'm
yeah.
gonna mute now and let y'all talk again.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. How
Okay,
about you,
Dan.
Fred? Any questions?
Yeah. I'll give a few here and let Leo build a brain up for a few minutes and see if he can figure out any good questions.
Okay. And before you ask anything, I just want to announce, viewers, if you have questions, I'm watching the live chat just below where you're viewing. If you have questions for me, anything you want to know about me or my experiences or anything that I do in general, feel free to ask. Uh, a lot of people. I've actually I was reading on Twitter. I was messaged on Twitter where when we do our discussions, a lot of people love watching our shows, and because they like the open discussions that we have, and the thing is, I when we're doing our discussions, that's why you see a lot of times I'm not. I hide my face because I'm trying to watch and read the uh, the comments and the questions that are in that live chat, and sometimes the discussion gets out of hand because everyone's trying to talk at the same time, and one goes from one thing to another, which I like random discussions. That's fine, but the individual was trying to say if we could maybe not just me, but because sometimes I've actually overlooked questions from other people. So so maybe later on we'll work on that later. But yeah, that's why I try to watch questions from the live chat because a lot of people like to interact, which that's what I want. I like that. I like when the viewers interact because it kind of makes them be part of the show, and that's what makes it interesting. So yeah, viewers, if you have questions, I'm watching the live chat. I'm trying not to overlook it. So feel free to ask your questions or share anything you want to have discussed. All right, Fred. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay. What made you decide to get into squatching to begin with, and what was your purpose when you did?
Well, back at the time, um,
How many years
there
ago
was
was
not.
that? How old were you,
Well,
and how many years was it?
okay. Well, when I first started actually getting into it, it was actually back in 2011 is when I started really getting into it. 2011, I was 31 years old, and tomorrow, Friday, the March 25th, I'm turning 36.
Oh,
So,
still young.
yeah, I'm still a baby.
Yeah.
But now it's just,
You are.
yeah. Part of what got me into it, really wanting to do more in exploring, uh, and we talk about this all the time, is the Patterson footage. Now, I've always seen, and I knew about Bigfoot, just never really acknowledged that it was something that was real or not real. It's just, I can't really say if I thought it was real before or not real before, but it was, like I said, it was always something that was in the back of my mind. But then when I started looking into, when I saw the footage and when I watched that one show, that documentary that had Bill Munns analyzing the footage, and then some of the other stuff that was going along when they were trying to compare it and match it up to a human figure. When I saw they couldn't do that, I was like, wow, I got to really kind of start getting into it. I started when I started going back on the woods. I started really paying attention. It's like a new world opened up to me. Um, where before I wasn't looking. This time my eyes were actually really open, and not just my eyes, everything, my senses, all my senses started to like turn on for the first time. I was like, it's I was able to start putting more to use, and my mind opened up more, and then I started having questions for myself. Everything I was finding, I was actually questioning myself. And then when I learned that social media was really involved with Bigfoot, like Facebook, all the different forums about Bigfoot, and I was like, I said, I mean, I got to get involved in social media. I said, I started gathering information from all kinds of sources. I started seeing all these theories floating around, and then I was questioning them myself. I was like, okay, that's where I was really getting started. I said, I believe at that time, I believed without doubt there was Bigfoot in the woods. But at that time, I had to start investigating for myself. I had to I wanted to see what all these theories were, all these things. That some of them I was really questioning because some of them were bizarre and out of this world. Um, I think a lot of them we've talked and discussed before, along with the cloaking and all the magical, mythical theories that are thrown out there. But besides that, there's a lot of little things where people claiming, oh, they eat this, they eat that, they live here, they live, they don't do this and this and that. I want to know, was there any truth to this, and how did people know this information? And so that's where the investigation started. It was a curiosity that, I had a curiosity or a quest to gain knowledge, and the more I got into it, it turned into a passion. And the, I guess you could say it still is a strong passion, but up to this point, it's actually become more of a passion. Um, I'm somebody who wants to find the truth, and I want to reveal the truth, regardless of what the truth is. If it's in theory, if it's if it's a statement made, I want to know if those statements are true. I want to set a record straight. As far as what I do and the way I speak up about a lot of stuff, I try to speak up about it with logical sense and with proof that speaks up against it otherwise. So it's like I said, it's beyond a passion. It's actually become an obligation on my part. I believe this has actually become, you know, I guess you could say it like a form of education. I want to educate people and share what I learned. So
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay, now you say you wanna prove exactly what Sasquatch is to a point. Now, in your mind, what is that? What is that theory? You're all right. We know you and I and 500,000 other people know that Sasquatch are real, right? Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, when you started getting into it, and you heard, well, Bigfoot is this, Bigfoot is that, blah blah this. You heard, what, and we got Bigfoot experts doing this, doing that. Common sense knows there's no Bigfoot experts. It's all theories. What's your theory on what you think Bigfoot is, and how do you think that you can go about proving that?
Well, that's another good question, and I'll start off with this. Now, first of all, like I said, there's a lot of assumptions and theories and thoughts and opinions floating around what what a lot of individuals, even highly educated individuals, are claiming Borelli hominid, whatever, ancestor of the great apes, and then this is where evolution comes into play. Um, but what I've stated once before, and I'll state it again, and I believe it's clearly in state to say, I believe they are an ape of an undiscovered species, just like the the billy ape. It's an ape. It was undiscovered. It wasn't acknowledged till so many years ago. In recent times, no one knew they existed. They're like a 300 or 400 pound ape. Their nickname's Cat Killer. So big and strong, they could tear a wild cat with their bare hands. But yeah, like I said, and this is only a theory or opinion of mine, and I'll explain why I choose this opinion and why I believe this is what it is. I believe they are a type of ape. Now we know Gigantopithecus once roamed this earth. Now there was remains found in Asia and over actually outside of Asia. In very recent times, there was remains found in another location. Now, Gigantopithecus was a very large ape, and according to studies, it was not an upright primate. Which, for the longest time, that was my era. I believed it was.
Well, tell people what Gigantopithecus is.
All right. Gigantopithecus was believed to be like a 10 to between, actually, according to science, a 10 to 14 foot tall giant primate. As far as in a lot of the images portrayed almost along like a orangutan or type of orangutan.
Wonder how long it's gonna take you to say that.
Yeah. Sometimes I get tongue tied saying things. But yeah, I believe, like most other primates, they do stand upright, but maybe not on a normal basis. I do believe that there's a possibility where it could have been upright, but the thing is, I don't think there was proof that they could really clearly say otherwise. Because back during the prehistoric era and the Pleistocene era, I mean, there was a lot of large animals, and there's a lot that we don't know about. I mean, there's a lot we can learn from the fossil remains. We're still finding dinosaur remains here in our own country. Mm-hmm. And there's a theory I want to state there is a theory where there's a possibility where a lot of Sasquatch subjects, they believe that originated out of Asia. Like they try to say Gigantopithecus was where the first set of remains were found in Asia, and believe, well, if Bigfoot's a relative of Gigantopithecus, it may have come across the barren land bridge at one time. Well, according to our Native American history, some of our Native Americans are Europe Asian, which a lot of them believe to have traveled on boat or through foot at one time through the Bering Strait Bridge. And thing is, some of them were already native here. Why couldn't the Bigfoot already be here? And this is a statement towards non-believers. A lot of them, they like, the ones who question, well, how would Bigfoot already be here? I mean, some Native Americans were already here, but according to according to history, a lot of them possibly came here through the Barren Bridge. Because I'm not going to get into that. That's kind of getting off subject, but um, now I kind of lost my train of thought where I was going with all this. But um,
I didn't.
okay.
Um,
But
there's also a lot of evidence that Vikings and African and European could have come across the Atlantic also back 1,000 and more years ago too, with the ice chunks and this and that and whatever. The Vikings made it to Iceland and Greenland and southeastern Canada.
right.
So they could, people and creatures, whatever, through the ice ages and the warm ages and the continents parting from Pangea, all of that. There's a lot of routes that could be taken by anybody or anything.
Yeah.
And
Now
end
here's
up
something. Well, here's something you made me think of too, and this is a known fact too. For those who don't know, our own country, the United States of America, primates were actually once, where I can't really say native to our country, but there was history of primates living here in America. A lot of it, 'cause, through many years ago, the climates were much warmer, and the climate change. They found primate remains in the state of Texas, where it's very hot down there. On the most part. Um, then in Alaska, they found evidence of palm trees in Alaska. And a lot of people are like, well, I've stated this and other stuff before. They're like, well, that don't make no sense. That has no bearing on Bigfoot's existence. I said, if you look into it, if you look at the picture the way I am, we lived in a lot of tropical forests. America, before civilization started taking over, where forests started getting torn down, our country was one big giant massive forest. Yeah, give and take on the East Coast, in parts of the East Coast here, and then in the North Pacific West, where it's one big giant rainforest right there. We had, our country was one giant, you know, territory for anything elusive such as a Sasquatch. Um, Now, as far as when the temperatures did change and got cooler, where primates were not able to adapt here, I believe the much bigger, stronger ones found a way to adapt. That's my theory. I mean, I can't prove that, but there's that saying, "Only the strong will survive." I believe that's very possible that a much stronger, more uh, dominant species did survive, because I believe Sasquatch is a much stronger, smarter species than us humans. If humans were able to survive through the cold climates and everything, why couldn't something such as a large primate survive too? I mean, that's something to think about right there. I believe, and I believe that's safe to say and to bring up on that.
Exactly. Sasquatch would be better able to survive in the heat, in the cold, in the wilderness, whatever, than humans.
Yeah, I mean,
In a big way. Go ahead, Fred.
Okay, now what's your question, Leo, to Daniel?
My question, I guess, basically was the Native Americans, the Europeans, the humans have figured out how to live in the hot, in the cold, in the so and so and so. a Sasquatch would have even a better understanding of how to survive. So
Right.
why
What's your
wouldn't they? Hey, if we did it, definitely they could have done it.
question?
What do you think, Fred?
What's your
Fred's asking, did you have another question for me?
No, not right off. No, that was just kind of my comment on the just we don't know. The Earth is millions of years old, and it has heated up and cooled down and iced over and heated back up. And we know we have cavemen. We have, so many different forms. We have Cro-Magnon and I know the other ones. I can't think of them right offhand. But how do we know it's not part human? It may have been from way the hell back a million years ago. There's just we don't know.
Yeah. Now I will say this. Now, before I read a statement off the chat, hold on, Leah. I'm gonna have to mute you again because when I talk, I'm hearing feedback. All right, there we go. Um, Now, as far as them being human, I'm not going to deny that there's no DNA that they share with a human DNA. Because look at our known primates. Their DNA is very close. It's 98%. We but they're not humans. They're what they are. They're our known primates. They're non-human primates. So I do believe there is a close human DNA in there, regardless. Now, I'm not even speaking off of recent DNA studies that's going on by the veterinarian. I'm not even considering what she's doing till that's actually done correctly and properly.
Okay, here you go. All right. If Bigfoot, um, if if Bigfoot is not human, human theory, how come they speak ancient, like Cherokee, Navajo, Blackfoot, Crow, Sioux, Pamunkey, Seminole? They speak the old language. Now, only people, only critters that can do that have got part human or have the vocals of a human to a point. Well, not to a point, but you know what I'm saying. Now,
Well, before I answer that question there, I, I'm not. does 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 a parrot that can speak and mimic a human make them human? That's where I'm coming at with that. But no, I can't really say too much on that because I haven't heard anything that in the woods that resembles other speaking of a known language. I know it's been acknowledged where people were able to make out some kind of language. But I'm not gonna I can't state you know anything on that unless I have experienced it. And even if I did hear something, how would I know if it was a known language?
That's what I was going to say. How would you know it was a known language if you don't know the language?
well, what
Exactly.
I
I mean, like if it's Spanish,
Yeah.
you've heard Spanish enough, something like that. But ancient Cherokee or Seminole,
okay,
you
what I
wouldn't
did,
know.
okay, what I did is I accidentally caught some chattering on my audio recorder, and I sent it to a lady friend of mine. She's a Cherokee spiritualist, and she teaches at Arizona State University. And I sent it to her, and she's more or less got in touch with me and told me what you have here is ancient Cherokee dialect, which means all the languages that that are not spoken today was spoken like you got old Spanish, you got new Spanish, you got old Cherokee, you got new Cherokee. And if you ask an elder, like say like a Pamunkey, down along Williamsburg.
Yeah.
They will tell you. I lived on a Pamunkey reservation down there, and of course that's where I was born next to anyway. But anyway, they say, every spiritualist, every old timer Indian I've talked to, they say there's an ancient language that they do not speak anymore. And what Sasquatch is doing is speaking that language. What you got to do is you got to record it, send it to someone, send it to ancient language, and you can. That's food for thought right there, But my question is, never mind. I forgot the question.
Well, I was going to make a statement on as far as language. Now, Scott Nelson. I was going to bring up Scott Nelson, and how he has been studying recordings and other sounds from alleged Sasquatch vocalizations.
Right.
Now, according to what he has on his work and his study, he's picked up a type of language the alphabet is it's not like ours. It's the sounds are not like ours. They're more in syllables of where our sounds of the letters are maybe twisted and backwards according to a lot of the known they're what they have. Now he has not stated, as far as from everything I read, he has not stated is anything known. As far as I know, I could be, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. I could have overlooked something, but now, like I said, he's picked up what his conclusion so far is that it's not a known language. It's now I'm not saying that's not possible. What you're telling me, Fred, but from what I understand, I do believe it's something that is possible. But according to Scott Nelson, he's coming up with they have their own language, and I don't think we actually understand or know what they're really saying if it is. I've been out in the woods. I've heard possible chatter, but it was sounds of chatter. When I say chatter, it was unmuffled. It was a muffled sound, or it almost sounds like it was somebody talking. Could have been the voices of somebody else being carried from long distance. I don't know, but whatever it was nothing I can make out. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is Scott Nelson the linguist? Who was, I guess, in the military or whatever. Yeah. Okay.
He was. He was.
Yeah. He didn't say what. I've seen a number of his things, and he's never said what language. He just said it is a language.
Well, what Scott did, he took his son had a project in class, and he asked him.
Yeah.
So he went to the what's that guy's name? When he recorded them sounds, the Sierra sounds.
Yeah.
And he picked out one particular sentence, and he slowed it 98%, and he picked up an old ancient language, because during World War II, during the Vietnam War and the Korean War, they used Cherokee Indians to send codes. All right, they used ancient Cherokee language codes, basically the same way. So they do have a language, but it's an old language, and that's why we can't pick up on it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Sam, you have a question for Daniel.
I don't think he must be talking because he's got people over the house right now, I think.
No, I'm actually down still in Atlanta at my sister's.
Okay.
I didn't have a question. I'm just listening. Like I said, I'm just going to listen to you guys tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, though, Fred. Good to see y'all.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, great to have you. Fred, before you say any more, I do have a question on the live chat from Connie Fox.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, and you could actually help on this one. She's asking, what are your thoughts on the different sounds they make, like when they mimic something? Do you think it could be some way? Oh, hold on, I'm trying to read how she has this. hold on. Do you think it could be some way they could be trying to tell you something, and then she'll explain why shortly? I personally, this is my opinion, I believe yes, but at the same time, they also may be communicating with others in that area that you don't know about. But depends on the type of vocalization. I think one of the most common vocalizations are whoops. As far as especially at close range, because like the whoops that me and Fred experienced were very close to us. I mean,
yeah.
very close. I believe it depends. I believe they're communicating. They were definitely letting us know they were there.
Well,
Because a lot of times when I believe they do let you know that they're there.
yeah, like today, I
So
went out, and like today I went out and I heard some bird sounds next to me that the birds I'd never heard before. And I heard it on the left and I heard it on the right. Now I do know from experience that they mimic different birds and certain animals in that area to say like, hey, he's over here, I'm over here. But that's the only time I've really ever heard. Like when I walk to the woods, I hear a tap tap on my left and I hear a tap tap on my right, which tells me that they're they're communicating with each other, letting them know where I'm at. Like you got one knock, means hey, there's a human there. Two knocks, like hey, be prepared. Three knocks, they're gone. I've heard three knocks this year, and after I heard that third knock, it sounded like I heard elephants running. So there's a bunch of creatures, birds, and mainly bird sounds. Is what I've heard them use. I've heard them use dove. I've heard them use. I heard juveniles try to imitate blue jays, owls, turkeys. Like last year on open day of spring gobbler, I had one or two squatches cross the road about 50 yards up. Then all of a sudden I heard a crow, a barred owl, and a hawk at the exact same time. And this is before daylight even comes, like an hour before daylight. And turkeys usually roost in pine thickets. An owl,
right.
Owl stays, in big oak trees, and a hawk, he's got a nest. Well, everything's got a nest basically, but these were right here at the exact same time, like the owl, the turkey, and the hawk, right at the exact same time. That's not normal for 5 o'clock in the morning. But yeah,
Right.
they do mimic other birds, especially when you come in the area and they know you're there, but they want to let another one know, like 100 yards out, like, hey, he's coming, or there's a human here. They do it as a what's that word called? Signal, and they do communicate like that. I've heard whoops. I've heard chatter. I've heard bird sounds. I've heard tree knocks. There's all sorts of ways. So you can't say there's 100 ways. There's 100 ways they could communicate, and you not know it. But if you know the critters in your area and know exactly what they sound like, you can definitely tell if it's a squatch or not. That's about good as I can do, Daniel.
Yeah, I think that made pretty good sense. Yeah, I do believe that they use other known animal sounds. Like what Fred was saying, birds. As far as birds, I believe they definitely use owls.
Oh
But
yeah.
now, as far as I can't say, as far as I've heard a lot of other sounds. Now there is certain birds that make sharp whistle sounds. Well, I've actually had sharp whistle sounds that actually stood out. I believe they have a whistle. One of the experiences, actually, this is more than one experience I've ever had, and one of the experiences I ever had was, like I said, this happened on a few different occasions, but the last one I remember is where actually in a location where I found my 16-inch track. When I was approaching back to the area with my supplies to go cast that track, I found over down to my right, I heard real close to me a sharp, loud whistle that got my attention. I stopped, looked over there, didn't see nothing. I just kind of stood there, kind of like listening, looking around, and then it was just dead silent. So I continued. I walked on, and right as I was approaching the area where my tracks were, right down to my right, I heard a very loud, distinct knock. There was no wind blowing whatsoever. It wasn't a double knock, knock like a woodpecker would do. It was one clear, loud knock. And I actually automatically stopped, turned down to that location, and I was like, I didn't see nothing, nothing that was visible. So yeah, I went about my business, continued to prepare my casting material, and after pouring my cast, while it was setting, I had time to go walk around and look around. But yeah, the whistle, like I said, a lot of birds make a sharp tone, a whistle tone, but this one here actually stood out to me, and in hearing sharp, loud whistles in the woods never really dawned on me, but I started paying a little bit more attention to them because especially the different times of year. Sometimes you hear them in the warm weather, and I've heard them in the cold weather. So, sometimes, like, I don't know. Until I actually officially identify, exactly what it is, I mean, it's something I'm not going to ignore. Because hearing different animal sounds and stuff that we're not always familiar with, even our known animals, the sounds that we know that they make, there's other vocalizations that they put out there that sound different sometimes too, which I'm well aware of. Like our coyotes, for example, their howls and wails, or they get off pitched, and sometimes I don't know. I think every animal's vocalization depends on their mood and behavior. So,
right, because a coyote's got 7 different barks, yips, and howls.
Coyotes sound like a pack of damn wild ass zombies or something in the woods. It is scarier than hell. We got a bunch here.
Well,
the coyotes.
They got 7 particular sounds that they make, and they got a sound for running in packs. They got a sound for distress. It's just different sounds. I'm a predator hunter, and we have hybrids here now. What's that guy's name who does I've interviewed him before, Daniel. Guy out west.
What does he do? I'm trying.
What's that guy?
Do you know the group?
Yeah.
You dealt with a lot of people.
No, I'm talking about I've had him on my show before. What's his name? Shaw boy.
Hold on. Oh man.
Well,
while y'all are thinking on that, I'm gonna tell you right now, what we heard was not a coyote. I hate to disprove what Corey said, but it was not a coyote, and I just want to put that on the record.
What was it?
What did you hear, Sam?
Nah, he's referring to what we were listening. Remember his video that we played and discussed that one night?
That wasn't no coyote.
Oh, I know it wasn't. And,
No.
I mean, I love what Corey has to say a lot of the times, but I know for a fact it wasn't a coyote. I mean, we have them around there all the time. You guys have them too. It was not a coyote.
Yeah, because, like I said, the coyote's got 7 particular sounds they make. And if you've never heard them, been out in the woods, you never heard them, you wouldn't know.
Right.
But squatches do imitate coyotes. Like the night that Daniel and his daughter had those 2 come around the camp. You heard one single coyote, then you heard the pack. Okay. That one coyote was probably, usually that one coyote was probably the squatch, making the sound, and then the rest of them the rest of the pack was like that. Now, we do have hybrids, and Rick Shaw, that Shaw boy out in Oregon, wherever, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch, him. He's saying that there's a new breed.
You're talking about Shaw. Yeah.
Robert
Shaw, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's saying that there's a new breed of coyote. Yeah, well.
Kelly Shaw.
Yeah, Kelly Shaw, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, I've known about these hybrids for about 10 years now, so to me it's not new. you know, but people are going to say, oh, there's a new this, new that, you know. Even when the Game Commission come out with it, I already knew it. I knew it 5 years before they even come out with it, you know, stuff like that. But like I say, a coyote does make 7 particular sounds in the Sasquatch, and I've seen, not seen it, but I've heard it close and far away. You'll hear one coyote, and I know every sound them coyotes make, and when I hear it, and it screws up, that tells me it's a squash. Then the coyotes will all, because usually it ain't just one bark, and then the rest of them will come in later. As soon as one starts barking, the others come right in about 2 seconds later. You know, so when you hear one lone voice, and then all of a sudden the rest of them come in like a minute later, that's a squatch. Because
I have a question.
About time. No, I'm done. No, I'm done. Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, I was gonna. I actually have 2 questions, and but I'll say them both, and then y'all can answer them. Number 1 is Sam. Well, this is more of a comment. We were talking about earlier before you came on about videos and things and how pictures look and how it looks in real life when you're looking at it. And same thing if you're listening to a coyote or a Bigfoot imitating a coyote in real life, you're the one standing there listening to it. So everybody else doesn't, their opinion really doesn't count. If you've heard it all before, you can tell the difference. And my second comment was to either 3 of you all, do y'all think that coyotes run with Bigfoot?
I think that probably all of the animals, as far as like your owls, I don't know, more of Daniel probably knows more about this than I do. Like I say, I'm just still new into this, but I think that more of the creatures that have a better intelligence maybe kind of stay together. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. It's just my opinion.
Okay, well, in the animal kingdom, I believe in the forest, all animals are aware of them. You know, they all acknowledge each other one way or another. Some, you know, there's some that, you know, just choose to avoid, choose to avoid certain others. You know, like a lot of times you won't. It's very rare if you see a bear. Most likely you ain't gonna see a bear, you know, a deer around. You know, I just believe they decide not to be around each other, or you know, vice versa. But now they're like every animal, birds acknowledge everything, and you know, I've heard this on a number of occasions where I believe a lot of people believe that crows have attention to squatches. Which, if you hear a commotion of crows, there's most likely a squatch in the area. Now, even though that's only and it depends who you ask. I believe that's only a theory. I believe I've actually been giving that some thought, and kind of when I go in the woods and I hear commotion of crows, I've actually kind of been paying attention to it. You know, I try not to ignore it, because you know what, this is part of what I want to do. This is part of looking into the theories that are floating around to see if there's any truth to it. And I don't look at and pay attention to all the theories too much. I don't give too much detail into a lot of them.
Okay.
But you know, actually, to make one quick, before you say anything, to make one quick statement, and this is actually from Les Stroud, and you know, when I heard him say this, I said, that's exactly how I am. But his statement is you got to be careful falling prey to suggestion. In other words, don't believe everything that's said about the alleged Bigfoot. Don't fall for it unless there's actual, you know, fact or proof behind it to back that theory up. Now, I mean, which, you know, because I know sometimes it's easy to get excited about something and say, oh, this was done by this squatch was here because the crow was just here. You know, I'm just throwing this out as literally speaking, or you know, or hypothetically speaking, you know, as far as.
Well, I can tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Now I can tell you, when I first before I videoed that family of squatches, I went that area. I worked that area for about a month, and every time I heard crows, and I listened to where their location. And when they get right over top of where I'm at, you could hear something running through the woodlot there, you know, between me and the on the other side of the creek. And whatever was running was not deer, you know, and stuff like that. So I've learned to, you know, I don't really pay much attention now, but back when I first started getting this group together, the group that I caught, you know, and worked with a couple summers ago, I knew where they was at because I've listened to the crows. Because you got a food chain, you got crows, you got Bigfoots. Wherever Bigfoots go, he's gonna kill a deer, take what he wants. The coyotes come behind him, cleans the mess up. There's a food chain there. There's a pecking order, like wolves are pecking order. I know, Sam, it sounds kind of funny, but it's true because what I've seen.
No. I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking my head. My nephew did something.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
But all right. But you know, like I said, you know, I've seen it. I've seen when crows start going crazy. Now they don't do it every time. It's just the times that I've seen them. You know, they were following these squatches. You know, and I knew they were squatches because all of a sudden the bad smell would show up. I'd hear grunts. I'd hear tree knocks and everything because a squatch cannot stand a crow because the crow is an alarm clock. And squatches don't like that. A squatch will pick up a rock and throw it at a crow if he has a chance to. But when it comes to the feeding pecking order, where if the squatch makes a kill, the crows are going to be there. And then when the squatch gets what he wants, then the coyotes move in and clean up the rest of it. So whenever you find, you know, like I found plenty of deer kills that was done by a mountain lion, by pack coyotes. I can't say wolves because, you know, they hunt in packs anyway. You know, you got a pecking order. But I've seen deer that's had their shoulders and their legs pop, you know, popped right out of the joint. You're being pulled off, and I knew something big had to do it, and you got to have thumbs to grab something and pull it off, you know. But I can honestly say that I've seen where crows, and they don't work together. They hate each other. And the crow cannot stand a squatch. That's
so the coyote could be
all right. Here is nature's.
Coyote could be following a squatch, and if you got coyotes, you could have a squatch in the area. Not necessarily, but the coyotes would go.
The coyotes are
around to pick up the mess.
Okay, you have turkey buzzards. That is nature's garbage disposal. The coyotes will come in behind a bear, they are a scavenger. So they're gonna clean up whatever was there. So if the squatch killed a deer, the coyote's gonna come in. That's why coyotes hang with Bigfoots. Or from what I've seen in my area, I've heard them run together. And you can always tell when the squatch is with the coyotes because whenever the coyotes bark, they're high toned. And all of a sudden you hear this low pitch. It's weird. But anyway, Daniel, here's my next question for you.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. When you're out doing your research in your area, do you get any particular smells or sounds or all right, no, let's do it this way. What do you look for when you look at a structure?
All right, repeat that. You kind of broke up as you said that. Something about a structure.
I said, what do you look for when you look at a structure? Real fresh structure. What do you look for in that structure?
Well, there's a couple of different things. First of all, I try to, you know, if there's something that stands out that looks interesting to me, I try to say, okay, was this, first of all, the first thing I want to know, did weather do this? Because, you know, a lot of times with, if it's, if it looks like it's been there for a while, like if the wood looks rotted, dead, did the wind, a lot of trees are top heavy where they snap off from the tops and, things fall and happen to land in a, kind of, unique pattern sometimes. That's one of the things I try to look for, because try to see if what's formed there came from around the surrounding area. Do these trees match up with what's grown around them? That's one thing I try to observe. Now, if it looks like it does not, then I go to the next thing. I said, okay, the next logical thing I try to do, because I do try to rule things out, I really do. The next thing is, did a bear do this? All right, or did a people do this? Is it something that maybe someone made as a lean-to shelter or some kind of shelter, temporary for hunting, or maybe camping in a weird survival kind of way, or but at the same time, I do try to look for if there's something that's formed by a lot of twisted and broken limbs. A lot of times I try to look for trees that are broken, twisted, because I think it's all safe to say a majority of the time, all twists on tree limbs and other trees are something that took hands to do. But now I have seen trees that were broke over between anywhere from 7 to 15 feet high that were actually twisted over. And I believe a lot of them were, especially depending on the size and weight of the tree, it was the weight of something bringing it over as it was twisting at the same time, bringing it down, or depending on if the tree was big and heavy and had enough weight, depends on the weight of the tree that's coming down and the momentum of the angle it was swinging. That there sometimes will cause a twist in a tree. But yeah, I do try to look at and study, and I will kind of come to a conclusion where, like a lot of times, if I share a picture on Facebook or something, I was like, I'll share them for observations and for, discussion. I'm like, look, this is what I found. What do y'all think? I believe, sometimes I do believe the possibility this was from a squatch or, et cetera, et cetera. There is certain structures that do stand out to me as far as markings, like X's and various forms of, like, on the ground. Like a lot of times in certain areas I'll see a certain pattern of across trees there that look like they were specifically laid and put there. And sometimes I find patterns where the tree is in a form of an X on the ground, and where there's either a stone that was placed there where it's not in its natural location, or there was a standing tree that's already there and you got two trees on the ground crossed over. I found a pattern like this where it just so happened to be, the trees crossing over and forming an X on the ground, and I don't know if was it a coincidence or is there a pattern, because I have to find this kind of frequently in my, in general area, in the surrounding area. I don't know if it's something, it just happens to fall and they land it like that, or are they being placed like that? But I don't. I do question some of the things I find, because but I do share them because they stand out. They look interesting. Something or somebody made most of what I find. I think there is a low percentage of some of the things I do find that are caused by natural causes like weather. So yeah, like I said, I always try to, when I look at something, I try to rule it out. Try to rule out anything that's obvious, or try to think what else could have caused it. So
okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that made any sense or not.
What was your first thought when you seen the eyes of a juvenile squatch less than 20 feet from you? What was the first thing that crossed your mind?
Well, first of all, honestly, the first thought that came across. Hold on, let me turn this off. First thing I thought about.
Y'all are scaring me now.
All right, go ahead.
What? Why you say that? Oh, okay. I'll talk. Anyway, the first thing I thought was, first of all, keep in mind when I first experienced this was after midnight, and of course there was 6 of us involved when this happened. The first thing I acknowledged when I was staring at what I was staring at I didn't know they were set. I did not know it was a set of eyes, because I know my headlamp was reflecting something, and it was large yellow, glowing, amber looking for reflection. My first thought, and this is exactly what I thought when I first started staring at I felt hypnotized, because I was like, what the hell is that? I was like, in my area, in certain areas, there's these little yellow square or rectangular shaped signs that attack the trees. And I thought for a second that's what I was looking at. But then I noticed there was a separation. It looked, it was two large amber looking spots. I was like, what the heck? And when I stared at it, as soon as I saw the first blink, my heart started jumped up to my throat real quick. Like, what the hell is that? Because you know what? It was less than 20 feet away when I first saw it. And as soon as I turned around, I called up Tracy. Tracy was probably about, I don't know, almost 10 feet behind me. He came up right away. We stood right beside me. We stared at it, and then whatever, it ran back. That's when it ran back a good 20-something feet away. Further back.
What did you hear? I mean, what kind of movement did you hear?
Honestly, I didn't hear no move. You could hear it sounded like it was actually almost quiet. You could hear, because the ground, it was actually soft grass. There was no leaves on that area.
Well, yeah,
it was like some, it was kind of grassy, clumpy grass. Give or take the few thorns and small pine saplings in the area.
Yeah. So that was between the Johnny House and the loading dock, right? Right there.
Exactly.
Okay.
And until this day, that very location is I have it marked too, so I know the exact spot too. Even without that marking that I have there, I know the spot, because with the set of trees with the two big bushes where the other subject were standing behind. Yeah, there's no mistaking, because those bushes, when they're fully bloomed out, you can see the actual height of them.
Yeah.
The height of them the top of the height is about 6 foot tall. So, like, the top of them is about my head. Parts of them actually extend a little further up. But the top of them, where you can see what might be on the other side of them, is about 6 foot tall. Now, of course, when we saw the rest of them, there was one standing just to the right of the juvenile. And it was around I'm going to say it was around the 6 foot mark, because you could see the set of eyes on it. You could see it blinking. And what got more exciting, because that subject wasn't really moving. The juvenile kept moving around. It was swaying side to side and looking around. But to the right of what we believe was possibly the female is what got more interesting. Because I don't know if everyone saw it, but I know I was one of the ones who acknowledged it. To the right of that subject, the 6 foot subject, was a set of eye shine that was looking at you. And at the same time, it got taller and taller and taller, like it was something that was crouched down, like maybe hiding.
How was you feeling?
And it stood up over. Well, honestly, I ain't gonna lie to you. I was actually excited. There was actually, I don't know if it was exciting because we were all experiencing something. At first, we didn't know what to think at first, but acknowledging, seeing we were able to actually make out head movement. We saw the silhouette of a head, which that was awesome, because you seen the blinking of the eyes, you see the head turn. This was on the big subject. The other subjects, we only were able to make out the eyes, and the small subject, swaying back and forth, like it was, I don't know, like kind of like what a primate does sometimes, goofing off, or something. But the taller subject was around almost the 8 foot mark. He was the big boy. That's why we believe there was a small family unit. We believed the tall one was the male, then the female, and then the juvenile. With what we saw, when we went back to camp after experiencing all this, because they kind of turned her off, they all disappeared further into the dark. But we worked our way back towards camp, and we were hearing some movement through different parts of the woods there. On the way back, we thought maybe they're following us, or they're just working their way back up to the ridge where they came from. But we got back to camp, and we were, before we even got settled down, we were trying to debunk the situation. We were trying to think, nah, you know, there was no way it was this. There was no way it was that. Because I know all the animals that are in the woods, and there's animals that I know that are in there that I have not seen.
Yeah, let me give
But
you. Let me.
they were all.
Yeah, let me give you a little
Huh?
lowdown here. Let me give you a lowdown. Kimmy,
Yeah.
Kimmy found that card, and there were 6 of them standing
Card.
behind it. Yeah, yeah. She lost an SD card. She couldn't find it. Well, she found it. There were 6 of them standing. I seen it. There were 6 of them standing behind the camp, behind their tent.
Well, I tell you what. One thing we did acknowledge because I'm not discrediting her on that possibility, but we were here and moving right behind our camp,
Yeah.
and I walked up behind the camp and I saw well over 12 dozen eye shine, and right away I knew what they were because a couple others came up behind me, and we actually turned the spotlight on, and there was like deer all over the place through there. So the deer were right there at our camp, and you know, and also not to discredit her too, but she called a pothole a foot track in the middle of the road up there. So I mean, I'm not trying to put her down, but you know, she was telling me she saw a large track in the middle of the road. And Fred, you know what those roads are. You know how hard those roads are, and you know the potholes in those.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't see a Sasquatch. I don't care if it was a fat. I don't care if it was 10,000 pounds. I don't think it's going to leave that much of a
No,
impression in
no.
that kind of solid, hard
All,
road.
all, yeah. Only thing I can say is
So
that I seen the video from her camera that she lost, that she set up. But she had a camera pointed behind the camp or behind the tent, their tent and everything. And I got, say, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I got 12 eyeballs and everything. But y'all did have deer
say that
around.
again now.
She said there was. She
Oh
can't.
yeah, absolutely. Because we were actually, yeah, me and Cliff Stanley, when we walked up behind camp, when he put his spotlight up, one of the deer were like 20 feet in front of us, just like eating it. Like there's a little trail that runs behind the camp,
Yeah.
and there was a doe there just standing there. She looked up and acknowledged us, and just put her head back down, going about scraping the ground and eating what she was eating. She didn't. She knew she was unharmed because I think the deer, a lot of the animals know the time of year around there, and this was outside of hunting season. They knew it,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
it's
because
like
I was gonna
yeah,
say, if there were 6 behind their tent and you got deer right there, the squatches would have been on them like flying shit. But
yeah.
How tall was the ice line? Deer height or taller?
Wait, how tall was what?
When you saw all the ice shine,
Oh,
was it taller than deer or the size of deer?
oh, yeah, oh, yeah, much taller.
um,
Now the juvenile one, you can't rule out that one, but the rest of them, the thing is, this is something we didn't know till the next day when we went back to do a height comparison. We did a height comparison the next day. First of all, on the road that we were standing on, it dropped down. The ground was like over a 5 or 6 foot drop
yeah,
slope.
yeah.
So they were standing much lower than we were. Our eyes were probably almost level with theirs. So, but keep in mind there was a distance. So when we went behind those bushes where we seen them, I know me and Cliff Stanley, being the tallest one, stood behind the bushes while Tracy was at the roadway. I had raised my hand. I was behind a bush. I raised my hand completely above my head. Tracy said, "That tallest one, its eye shine was just about over the top of your hand." I said, "Man, that puts that thing over 8 foot tall." You know, so I mean,
Well, I told
I,
y'all
you know, I,
I
and get
told
this, I
y'all.
shared this bit of information with a coworker, which he don't work there no more. Yeah, he's actually claimed to have a road crossing up there, but by now it's been almost 3 or 4 years ago now. But he told me, "Oh, you guys are in great danger. You guys encountered a family of bears." Now, in my opinion, in my observation with bears, I don't care day or night, they're going to different. If there's, especially if there's all these people there, I don't think they're going to hang around and be curious. I think every bear I've ever experienced, they were taking off and they weren't hanging around. I don't think that family of bears was going to hang around like that.
No, because
Because
a bear when they smell a human, they're getting the hell out of Dodge as fast as they can. And you got a lot of people say, "Oh, you experienced a bear." No, bull crap. People don't know bear. If you live in the mountains as long as I have, all a bear, I've had bear 150 yards up on the side of a ridge, man. They got wind of me, and it sounded like someone put dynamite up their rear end. They're gone. So people can say, "Oh, go ahead."
Oh no, I basically to go along with what you just said. Yeah. I think, all right, for one thing, people got to keep in mind in our neck of the woods we have black bear, the North American black bear. Maybe out northwest and out further west they have the brown bear, grizzlies, etc. They're more aggressive, I'm sure on the most part. Now, black bears around here, they're very elusive animals around here. They do not like to stick around. If they're within human presence and they smell you, they're already going to be going in the opposite direction.
They're gone.
Now, having cubs, if you get too close, that might be a little bit different situation. But now, off of studies, and this is a proven fact, so far, in the state of Virginia alone, just Virginia alone, black bears, the study on black bears is they are very inaggressive. They're not, they will not harm you. It's very rare, even though it has happened, but it's very rare that a female bear will actually attack. But they will. They're known for it. They will. But just here in the state of Virginia, and I'm only speaking for the state of Virginia. This don't go anywhere else because this is just from observations from conservative, wildlife management, here in Virginia. That black bears have never showed any sign of aggression unless wounded. There was one where a hunter got mauled by a black bear till the rest of his fellow hunters came and shot it down. Because for one thing, the bear got wounded. The bear got shot and was wounded, and when it got wounded, it decided to track or circle back around and track down the hunter. So yeah, there is, the black bear will attack if aggressed or provoked.
Yeah, or
it's the right word to use, provoked.
But
they
if you
say that about a lot of animals. If it's wounded,
well, that's what they.
And you're the only one there.
Yeah,
but if go ahead, Fred.
The thing about it is, the only time a female bear will come after you is when you're in between her and her cubs.
That's right.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Otherwise than that, they're gone. They don't even want to have nothing to do with it.
My point about the bear was if you're sitting around the campfire in a group and the bear comes strolling into the area and they notice you, they're going to stroll the hell on out.
Well, unless you got food.
If they've got cubs and you're not moving, running after them, and upsetting them about the cubs, if you're just sitting minding your own business, they'll take the cubs and move on out most of the time. Right?
Yeah. But what Fred just actually said, I caught what Fred said there. They're talking about being at a camp. He said if you got food. Now
they will come around your camp, but they will not come into camp. They will hit that's why they tell you tie your bags 10 foot in the air.
Oh, yeah. Now, I agree with that. I'm just saying that if you're all just sitting around camp and a female bear comes up and comes by with cubs, she's going to pass on by. If all of you are sitting out around the fire, if nobody's chasing her or aggressive toward her, she'll take the cubs and go on by. It's just if you get in between, yes, and maybe at night they will come and, go after your food.
I've had a bear stick his head in my tent one night over at Shoe Creek. And I was smoking a cigarette. I was waiting for Jeff to get over there, just over at Nelson County where I was going to take you until they closed it up. And I'm laying in the tent, 3 o'clock in the morning, smoking a cigarette, and all of a sudden I hear something come into camp, and I'm like, okay. And it stuck its head in my tent. I just froze and watched it, and it pulled it back out, and I heard it stand up on his back legs, and I could hear his claws hitting my truck. I stuck my head out the tent and went boo real loud. Well, you want to see four-wheel drive, you've seen it right there. But that's the only time they come into camp. This was curious, But mostly, bear will stay away from, and in the area Daniel's talking about, I know the area like the back of my hand, and I know for a fact what they saw was not a family of bear. I know that for a fact.
No, no doubt. Nah, the more I'll tell you a little something else too. I mean, like I said, we did go back to camp. We debunked it, and I think everything that we thought about and discussed, it easily ruled out everything that's known to live in or inhabit that area or the whole general forest itself. Um, the other things that happen, there's other events and other encounters that happen in that same very area. Um, I know all the known wildlife runs through there. For one thing, I mean the deer are in there. I've walked up on deer in there. Right, yeah, actually during the hunting season, I've actually walked up on deer. I mean, like I wasn't in to make clear something up. I wasn't in a safe position to shoot, especially in the direction they were in when I saw them. But talking about deer now. But now there's turkey that run through there. The bear come through there. Now the thing is, one of my main camp areas are right there across from that area, right outside of that area, and I've had experiences right there at my camp. And if it wasn't a vocalization, it was, there were. I know, even though I did not see nothing, a lot of people are like, well, how do you really know? Well, I'll tell you, and I've shared this before. When I was at my camp one night, walked out to the middle of the road. Keep in mind, it was about after 9:30, almost 10 o'clock at night. I had a spotlight in my hand. The spotlight was not turned on. I walked into the middle of the road, pretty much blinded. I was, it was dark. I was experimenting, just playing around. Got to the middle of the road. It was quiet. There was no one else around. Decided to turn my spotlight on. As soon as I started to shine in the woods, over to my left, a deer runs off. I knew it was deer because I know what deer sound like when they run. But right away, over to my right, and this was not a bear because a bear would have took off a lot faster, and I probably wouldn't. The only time you hear a bear when they first start off from a dead stop to a run, you'll hear a slight scuffle in the leaves, and then silence. What I was hearing was the sound of a very large, flat-footed, keep in mind, quote, bipedal subject. I did not see the subject, but without doubt, the sound of the massive weight and the sound of each flat foot that stepped gave off a loud thump. With every sound it took a step, I was like, I knew what was there. I just didn't see it. It was probably less than 20 feet from me, inside the tree line. I kept my spotlight shining right there. As soon as I heard what I heard walking off, I mean, apparently I spooked it. It didn't know my presence for some reason, but that light triggered it. It caused it to start to walk off. It didn't run off, and it wasn't taking its time walking off either. It was a steady, heavy, massive walk. I mean, I don't know if that's a weird way of describing it, but every step was a thump, and you could hear the crash with each step. Yeah. I don't care how big of a bear is. I've seen big bears in the area, and I know that bears ain't gonna have a loud, massive thump with each step. What I experienced right there was a very tall bipedal, and I quote bipedal subject, because I know the sound of bipedal steps. And there's some people might think otherwise and disbelieve that, but I know what I experienced and I knew what I heard.
Yeah.
So, but in that neck of the woods, yeah, that's just one of the things that happened in the area.
Yeah, people don't realize, when you're out in the woods, you got a bipedal critter around, the only way they're going to realize that the seriousness of a Sasquatch is when he walks away and he's got weight and you could feel and hear the thumping. That's a feeling that it sends a shiver up your spinal cord, but it's exciting at the same time. And people need to experience this. Then they know exactly. Once they experience that, they will know what it is to hear something like that. You know, yeah, anybody can say, yeah, I heard a Squatch walk. You sound like a regular human. Yeah, but what else did you listen for? People don't listen to that. You know, they don't listen.
Yeah, the sound, the weight, the sound of the step. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
To clear something up on one of the comments on Facebook under the post, Corey Likopoi was stating about the bears, and I believe I did kind of say this clear when we were talking about the bears in the area, how we have black bears here and their behaviors. I was pretty much comparing their behaviors, how they are here in Virginia, and because what he said, you guys can't just say bears. Depends on the area. Black bears here will charge you in the bush, which that they will bluff charge you here too. Yeah. But you know, and then
if you get a big,
yeah, but if
you get a big boar.
Yeah, he said. Then he goes on to say, you do not want to be caught outside with a polar bear or Kodiak. Oh yeah, I believe that without doubt. But yeah, I did specify. Yeah, with other bears, like I mentioned in that comment when I stated that the brown bears and grizzlies in other areas where they inhabit, yeah, their behavior is more aggressive, I believe, than your average black bear. I think that's more safe to say. But I was just, like I stated, I was just stating studies based off of Virginia black bears as far as observations with black bears and what's reported from the black bears here in Virginia. And I know, like I said, that doesn't go, and I wasn't trying to compare Virginia to every other state because I know behaviors and patterns are different with some animals in different areas, and you know, it depends on the environment as well and what causes their aggression, and et cetera, et cetera. But right, and yeah, the black bears. I'm not saying they won't bluff. I'm not saying they won't charge you here because I believe they will if need to. I've actually, if I'm not mistaken, I do recall I might have heard that happening to somebody here before. I'm not sure location-wise, but I believe did happen somewhere here in Virginia.
Yeah. Oh, we was
go ahead, Fred.
I've been treated before by a bear. We was at a landfill, buddies, and you know, they would drink and got out and was throwing rocks at you, we was there looking. The landfill was closed down anyway, and one of my dad's friends got out and started popping it with the 22. Well, since I was the one standing outside the truck, I'm the one he got charged. And I'm lucky he didn't come up with 3 after me. But yeah, if he's foraging and you kind of be in the wrong spot at the wrong time, they will charge you. But it's not a fun feeling, you know.
Right. Yeah.
About 280 pounds, and it was old as hills, an old boar.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Leo. You got a question, you said?
I have a question.
Go ahead. I got to make some coffee.
The video that you did, I don't know, about a week ago, where you went up around the lake, I think you went up the hills and checked out some rock out cliffs with some, maybe were some little caves, but it was like just, out rock outcroppings and whatever. And then toward the end, you saw across
on the opposite ridge,
the dark spot.
Yeah.
Did you ever decide? It looked to me like a burnt tree, but nothing was burned around it. It did seem to move, but that could have been you moving. But it was a very interesting find.
Yeah, part of what I noticed was moving. Oh, because once I was getting a clear focus on a little bit of it, over on that ridge, some of the tree limbs were a little bit moving around. I don't know if that was from a breeze or something that was kind of glowing over there, but I saw some of the limbs and trees moving.
Okay.
Now, like if you watch and listen to me in the video, I mean, I was starting to get a little excited because I thought for a second I saw a movement off of it. Now,
Yeah.
because one of the things I was trying to keep in mind is there was other rock ledges on that ridge too. I noticed before I climbed up the other ridge. Now, what I was actually thinking it might have been was possibly like, all right, a gap or a crevice between two rocks or ledges where the shadows looked awful dark.
Dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I almost thought that's what it might have been too. But now, after looking and reviewing the footage afterwards and kind of zooming in a little bit more, there was something below that dark spot that kind of stood out. And I mean, I can't say for sure, but it did look like there was something that moved there a couple different times. Now, I don't know. That could have
Well,
been. I don't know. It was hard to say. So.
well, I know it did look. There definitely was a dark spot, and I looked at it, a few times, and it did look like it moved. But as you say, it could have been wind, or it could have been you moving just a tiny bit too. But maybe it was a lightning strike from years ago, and everything grew back, and it was a black tree, or maybe it
Oh
was
yeah.
a cave or something that was or deep in a shadow. But it was interesting, to say the least. Maybe you should hike that
Oh
other
yeah.
hill one day when you can.
Oh yeah. I definitely believe. Yeah, I definitely plan on going back there, but that was definitely a hard ridge to climb because it looked easier from
Well,
down below, but once I started climbing it, I didn't realize how vertical it was.
even
And
if you
well, the
don't
other thing is
go,
too, when I started climbing it,
you could tell it was steep.
huh?
I said you
Oh
could tell
yeah,
from the video it
there was a
was
lot of
steep.
loose
Yeah,
rocks underneath the leaves.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
And I've
yeah.
lived in the
The only
mountains.
thing
I
that
know
helped
how
me get up
that
there
is.
because I had to actually
Okay.
literally put my belly on the ground. Yeah. So.
Even if you don't go to the other ridge,
um.
if you go back to that ridge and video it again, just to
Right.
see,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know,
good point.
yeah. It was
Yeah, because where
interesting though.
that one location
I
where
like. Go ahead.
yeah that one location that I climbed up. The only reason I climbed up that ridge to begin with because I thought I was looking at a cave from down below, and I even zoomed in on it from down below, and it still looked like a
Yeah.
cave. So I was like, you know what, I got to find out for myself. So I climbed that steep ridge just to find out
Yeah,
exactly what it was.
those
So
outcropping rocks like that are still uh, so interesting, and you never know when they might be informative too. So
oh
I
yeah,
enjoyed that video. It was a good one.
yeah, yeah, it was definitely interesting because before I hold on. Hold on, I'm gonna mute you again, Loyal, real quick. All right, there you go. Um, yeah, because like if you watched in that video how we were talking about crows before I actually went into the whole area back there. I was hearing a commotion of crows back there, so that's kind of like what made me decide let's go check this out, you know. And, but yeah, that's what I did. I went back there and I wanted to check the area out. And when I started climbing up this one ridge, I actually stumbled across which appeared to be like an old logging road that went up between these two high ridges. Like I was walking up in the middle of a hollow, parallel with this nice fresh spring stream, and which was pretty interesting. And if you're watching the video, because I made two parts to that video, and in that video there also before I even went up that ridge, I found a couple things interesting in the part of that stream. Part of that was um, what was it? There was a couple. I don't know. Maybe they were natural, but they looked interesting, like they stood out. There was two stones that were laid on the edge of another rock. With they looked like they didn't belong there to me. So it made me go in there and look at them. I wanted to get a closer look. And some of the stones in the middle of that creek or that stream, there was a thick, I guess you could say like moss where the water was running over. And in if you watch in the video, there was a indention or impression into the moss that looked like it stayed impressed. I don't know if it was something that was fresh or just happened to stay there, but there was a fairly large impression there that you couldn't make out if it was, a boot track, but I don't know. It was something interesting there, but I don't know. Yeah, I enjoyed that hike too, though. I mean, it was definitely a good exercise. But Fred, am I still breaking up?
No, not now. It's the only time you're breaking up is like when Leo's talking and you're talking at the same time. Both of you freeze up.
Oh.
And everything.
Oh, okay. That's why I muted her, because when I'm talking, I'm hearing feedback on my end. I'm hearing myself repeat myself, so that's why I had to mute her. So.
Okay.
Well, hey, I'm keeping myself muted as much as I can. When I have a question or something to say, raise my hand.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I guess y'all hadn't noticed that, but that's like in school. So I'll do that.
Yeah, because at the same time, I'm kind of looking back and forth. I'm looking on my phone at the live chat, and then also I'm looking at other windows because I got whatchamacallit, I got people commenting on Facebook too, so I'm kind of going back and forth. Because
yeah. Okay. Here's the next.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a good question. As far as your experiences of being in the woods looking for Bigfoot tracks, what is going to be? How far do you feel comfortable expanding your research range comfortably?
As far as for example, like out of state, you mean?
I mean, in your general area, how far are you going to extend it? I mean, are you going to say like, well, tomorrow, I just search these areas. Tomorrow, I'm going to go on the other side of this ridge and work at grid back there. So work, in grids like I do. Are you going to?
Oh, absolutely. My general location is actually broke up in what I call zones. Zone 1 I have set one massive area. Well, actually, it's broken down in like for example, if people who live in a subdivision, they have a quarter to an acre lot, or maybe larger.
Right.
So yeah, I have specific locations which I label in my area, and I got a map. I have them mapped out. I have Zone 1, which covers a large general area. I have Zone 2, which runs into another state. So yeah, but these areas have locations and ridges that I have yet to actually go further and deeper into. And little by little, I actually have been going a little further distance to actually explore more. And because just in the bottom and below these areas is where I found evidence and have experiences of something of one way or another, where I go further to try to explore to see if there's more that's going to happen in the area, or maybe possibly bring me to a location where they actually, where they actually stay on a regular basis. Because a lot of the areas I experience what I do, I believe these are areas that they just actually travel through, or they come into like as day areas where this is where they come down to play or do their thing. Because a lot of the areas where I experience everything, there's food sources there. Well, there's food sources all through the area, but there's streams and water holes, all through the area. I mean, there's a large abundance of water sources, a lot of springs in the area. All the springs and streams are all spring fed. I mean, they're all coming from off the mountain. A lot of minerals. I mean, everything's there. I mean, that could hold a large predator. I mean, not just a large predator, but the bears are very abundant in my area. So, I mean, in the food sources that supply the bears, I believe are the same sources that supply a squatch.
Okay.
Squatches might have. Go ahead.
What do you think their food? What do you think their main food sources is in your particular area?
Well, I do believe that deer may be a food source. Well, for a number of animals there, for the mountain lion, coyotes, and I believe the squatch as well. Do I believe that's their main source? I can't really say yes or no on that one. I believe there's other normal diets that they may also take. There's parts of the forest that they eat that we probably can't eat or that we don't know about. Like I believe a lot of plants. I know one plant that's edible for both humans and a lot of heavy ferns in the area. The root of a fern is edible to a human. So I believe if a squatch has the knowledge to eat ferns, I mean, you know, I believe that's very possible. But as far as the main food sources, without actually observing it, I would have to say maybe a deer. Because my theory is, believing from the encounters and experiences I've had, there was always deer involved, and I believe there was an interruption when these encounters happened. I believe there was an interruption to them going after their dinner. Because prior to the experience that all six of us had in the area, before we had that, there was a large deer on the other side of the road just below that. So I believe there's a possibility they may have been running deer.
Do you think? Do you think they? Do you think they? What do you think they look for and eat when they're? Because we all know that they follow the water source, follow the creeks and stuff. So what do you think that they eat out of the creeks and stuff? For beginners and stuff.
Well, I know there's a lot of little small, in some of these shallow creeks and little pools. There is a lot of little native trout that sit in these small pools and stuff. Some of them get trapped in these little shallow pools, especially when the water levels drop down. Also, there is two other large sources that inhabit in these creeks and streams. One is your crawfish. There's a lot of crawfish in these streams and creeks. The other one is very large water salamanders. Some of these salamanders I've seen is 8 to 9 inches long. Big, large orange water salamanders. So I believe it could be a mixture of that. Any other crustaceans, but yeah, just like you, deer. Excuse me, not deer, but bear. I know the bears eat the crawfish because I've seen it in their scat along the creeks and stream beds around there. But yeah, I believe the crawfish and the lizards. Like I said, some of the fish, and I'm sure they may even have a part in some of the other leftover kills from other predators in the area.
Do you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think a squatch is a scavenger or a fresh meat eater?
I believe it's safe to say it without proof. I believe it's safe to say it's a possibility they could be both. Just like a bear. A bear's a kind of a scavenger. Bears will not run and take down a deer, but if there's a leftover deer kill, they will make a meal out of it. So yeah, I believe, but it could go either way. Like I said, without observing these behaviors, it's hard to really collaborate on what they do. So, but yeah, I believe it's safe to say that it could be either way.
Okay,
and I do believe that they are definitely omnivores. They both eat meat and vegetation.
Okay. Leo has a question. Okay, Squirt.
I have a question. Damn it. Eating. I didn't watch it, but I saw a post on my Facebook today. I don't know if it was a video. I think it was just a story. Like I say, I didn't watch it and read it, but said witnesses they saw Bigfoot throwing rocks at rabbits. Now, I feel like they would definitely eat a rabbit if they caught a rabbit. We know they're pretty good aim at throwing rocks. So, rabbit would, you know, rabbits, squirrels, groundhogs, any of that, you know, would go into their menu too.
Okay. Interesting question for City Girl. All right. Now, the next question is, Daniel.
Did you say a city girl? Fred.
What?
Did you say a city girl?
No.
What did you say?
Nothing. Now mute yourself. I got a question to ask.
No. I'm a lot of things, but I ain't a city girl.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, next question. What is your
that every damn time.
Daniel, what is your future plans on your squatching, and how do you propose to expand your knowledge? And Daniel, I think
you called me a city girl and insulted Daniel so bad that he left the show.
No, I think he dropped. I think what happened was his link dropped out because he was starting to break up too. Let me go over here to Facebook for a second here.
You don't ever call me a city girl, boy.
City girl chump.
Ain't no way. I didn't eat beef until I was 16 years old. All I ever had was deer meat and hog and squirrel.
Really? I don't know what happened, Daniel, man. But anyway, folks, I got to carry this on. So, oh, what a fart. Okay, well, I'll tell you about some of the stuff in my area here. You know, my main goal is to teach what I know, and a lot of people think I don't know anything. I do know everything. And okay, let's see what Daniel says here. I'm coming back, is what he says. Okay.
Fred, tell us how to get in touch with Valley Bigfoot.
Go to my Facebook and punch in Valley Bigfoot, or go to my YouTube channel, Freddy59100. He lost. Daniel said he lost. He said he lost connection. You can also, there he is. You can also get on Inside Virginia Squatch too.
Yeah. There you go. I'm sorry about that, everybody. I lost connection somehow. So.
Yeah, I had to fill in real quick. I was just giving them bullshit.
Oh, that's fine.
And he insulted me at the same time.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, my question was, before I realized you were gone, what is your future plans on as of researching, teaching, and spreading the word of your gospel on Bigfoot? And how to prove that Bigfoot is not a non-existent critter. Go.
All right. Let's see. Well, first of all, I'm going to continue doing the simple techniques that I do. I mean, just like what most of us do out in the field. It's funny. I'm going to bring this up because even though this was stated by Richter, he was actually quoting, I believe, from Todd Disotell, that a lot of us so-called Bigfoot researchers are no other than glorified campers. Well, I mean, that's how I like to spend my time in the woods. For one thing, I love to camp. but also I find it also a better way to actually observe and be out there, to spend the time out there to learn. Um, I just don't go out in the woods camping, doing some hiking. I mean, yeah, it's simple hiking. I'm very observant. I like to take in nature, a lot in itself. I'm not just someone looking for Bigfoot signs. I'm also considered a wildlife researcher. I go out there and I observe nature in the known wildlife. I want to know what the known wildlife is doing. So when I understand and learn the patterns, all right, yeah, when I go around and try to learn their patterns and see the movement and what they're doing, what they're eating, when they come and go, I try to understand. Okay, when they're coming to these areas in the evening, because a lot of times people know deer come out in the open, deer move down, and they start to feed in in the lower grounds. This kind of tells me, and just from other field, observations from experiences with squatches, the squatches come down too. But the thing is, what I do when I'm out there, when I'm out researching, when I observe and acknowledge these things, I share what I observe. Now, and the other thing is, as far as being a researcher, I just don't go out in the woods. I'm also a reader. I'm also a studier. With what I believe a squatch possibly is a primate. What kind of primate, we don't know. That's why I safely say it's an unclassified primate. But now, when I think of primates, I think of our known primates. I study and try to get knowledge on our known primates, and that's where I do a lot of comparisons, and not just with our known primates, back to our known wildlife. I study wildlife. I study the patterns of wildlife. I compare bears. I learn a lot about bears and how bears have a lot of similarities with, especially the tracks and stuff with squatches. I believe with a bear being pretty well elusive on the most part, even though they are seen, I believe a squatch has a lot of similarities with bears and what they do. And the thing is, if people start paying attention to these little details, especially when it comes to anything from structure to whatever, I mean, I think you'll start kind of seeing a lot of similarities and comparisons. And then I think once you start and understand your known wildlife, I think then it might be a lot easier to. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Rule out what you find. If I believe it's safe to say it that way. But my whole plan with what I do, and this is, I believe in sharing the truth. Now, I try not to make blunt statements, even though I do on occasion. So you will, a lot of people hear what I say, and I will speak and stand my ground on a lot of things. And I will continue to do so until I can find further evidence to back up my claims and statements. I do try not to, I've been corrected in the past, and I humbly take a lot of criticism, and I'm not afraid to take criticism because I learn from it. And I'm very careful about what I say, or at least I try to be anyway, and I'm not perfect. Because to make a clear statement, I'm not an expert. So, you're going to find a lot of faults with me and a lot of errors, just like anyone else in the field. Because a lot of these individuals who are mainstream science buffs and, who believe they have all the answers because they're science, and they have these degrees, thing is, you got to look at them. Do they get out in the field? They might be book smart, but are they experienced in nature? Are they experienced in the field? Do they spend a lot of dedicated time in the field,
Nope.
Observing what we do? I believe there's. I could think of two right offhand that actually have to. One in particular. I mean, I believe it's safe to say that Dr. Jeff Meldrum and Dr. John Bindernagel are one of the only two that I know that do get out in the field. Especially John Bindernagel. He's a wildlife biologist. These individuals are very highly educated, and they do a lot of field observations, especially John Bindernagel. And he understands nature. He understands wildlife. He knows what they do, and he too, in a way, compares wildlife with Bigfoot. And there's a lot of other things. I have yet to get his books. I want to order his 2 new books he's got, but but what I was getting at there, I believe there's some, even though they won't say it bluntly, a lot of them, a lot of these educated individuals with degrees, they're basically claiming themselves as a proclaimed experts, because a lot of them make judgments on a lot of us, people who get out in the field to observe. Because there's a lot of simple observations that I do both from the field and then in my research and my studies out of the field. And when I learn things and I compare things, I I share them. I'll put them. I put my theories and my beliefs and everything and what I learn into a blog. A lot of times I post them on my website. Um, but yeah, my whole goal is to continue sharing what I do and educating people as I learn. Um, you know, there's a lot of people that will, and there's a lot of people that, there's a lot of people that do, but yet don't read and study. There's people that can't always get out in the field. But for those who don't, I suggest start reading. Start reading. And a lot of people go off of what we do. A lot of people watch and stay on social media because, they want to learn the best they can because some of them are unable to get out in the field. So, but yeah, one thing I will suggest is start reading, start understanding some of our known species, like our primates, and study the bears. And then when you start seeing these comparisons in these field videos, like I try to share, I know a lot of my videos don't show nothing. A lot of the times it's just me, walking in the woods and talking or explaining what I might be doing, um, and some of my videos might be boring to some people, which I can understand why, because I don't claim to have a Bigfoot in none of them. I've had people point other things out to me, which say cool, if there's something there, it is. I don't see it, um, but yeah, I try to share what I learn. I like to believe, I want to be able to educate people, and people say, how can you educate? You don't know nothing yourself. Well, when you get out in the field, you start picking up on little things. Those are little things I start sharing. Um, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do research. I do study. I don't go to school for it. I go, I research information online. I go to the libraries. And I buy books. I have my own little mini library, as far as basic research studies in different fields. So these are things I do. This is what I do. Like I said, I'm not an expert, and I'm not trying to tell anybody that all my answers are right, because they're not. And there's a couple things, give or take, I've actually corrected myself on a few things from where I first started, picking up on things to what I've learned up to recent times here. So, because I made error in making judgments and stuff, because I jumped the gun on a few things. I made false conclusions when everything I was stating before it's still only theory, um, but yet that's another thing. When I first started getting into the whole Bigfoot research thing, part of what I was doing was I wanted to start taking theories and turning theories into facts, if they are fact. I wanted to see if there was any fact behind theories. And so far, there's very little fact behind theories right now. Until there's actually acknowledged, clear evidence, we can only make assumptions and say this is that and that and this, whatever, so forth, et cetera, et cetera. Till then, it's only going to be hearsay. Um, but yeah, that's basically my rundown on what I plan on doing. I'm going to continue doing what I do, sharing what I find, and continue documenting and my learnings and everything in my blogs, and I share what I do. So, to some people it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to some people. Some people just don't get it. But if you start opening your mind and start looking at what I'm trying to do, you might start understanding. I don't expect no one to agree with me. That's fine. I don't agree with a lot of you out there. Everyone has their own opinion on everything, and that's fine, and that's the way it should be. No one should hate or discredit anybody because they have a different belief in something. But there's some things that are just too blunt and obvious that there is some things that do need to be spoken up against. But don't put that person down for it. Take them aside and discuss it, why you don't believe, and then let them come back at you and say why this is why they're saying it. Because I mean, there's a lot of comparisons that need to be done in the field with each other. You know, a lot of people learn from each other, which that's what I do. I pick up on things from a lot of people. I picked up and learned a lot from what Fred's spoken on and shared, and a lot of other people in the field. You know, Tracy Arnold too. You know, and then there's so many others I can't think off right offhand to mention, but I do pick up on a little things from a little bit from everybody. So, and I think we all do. And that's the way it should be. We're the Bigfoot community. We're like one big family, and we all learn. We learn from each other and what we all bring to the table. You know. So, but so, but yeah, that's enough of my rambling. I know I'm just rambling, blabbering on right now. So, anyway,
Okay.
I'll leave it at that for now. So.
Thank you. I wanted to agree that, yes, everybody has their different opinion, and there's no need to be ugly against anybody else's opinion. Back to, I guess maybe back toward what Daniel was saying, I have never actively gone out and looked for Bigfoot. But I have read and looked and watched and seen and read so much historical accounts and current accounts and whatever, and you do, when you research and read, even though if you're not in the woods, you do get a sense of what are the more common traits, what are the more common signs, you know, so you do learn about it even if you haven't been out and done it. I want to go out and do it, and I'm going to now. But I agree also, who is a credible researcher? And people who are sitting in a science lab in a white lab coat who have never stepped foot in the woods, okay, they can have their opinion, and they can look at whatever DNA happens to cross their desk, and they can disregard it or whatnot. But people in science, the highly educated, I just don't. Not that there are a lot of highly educated people who get out in the woods and research and do and whatever, but you can't beat the country people who have been in the woods their whole lives, and like Fred says, and you too, know the sound of a squirrel, know the sound of all the birds, know the sound of rabbits and deer and bear. And they're just as intelligent as a person with a PhD sitting in a lab. They just didn't go to college. That doesn't mean their IQ's any lower, you know. And people can fuss and carry on, whatever. Don't disregard other people's experiences. You weren't there, but yeah, just do the best research you can do for you, and there you go.
Right, and you know, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of people got to start realizing the people who get out in the field, you know, they're spending dedicated time out there. They're putting time in, you know, and taking the time and the money out of their own pockets to go travel, you know, and you know, the people that with the field experience, the field knowledge of wildlife, we're putting our time out in the field, you know, to learn the real truth. You know, there's a lot of things that people making claims about because they said they seen this, or you know, that's fine. That, you know, I won't discredit them, but at the same time, it's also hearsay. You know, there's certain things I want to experience for myself, but at the same time, if I could experience it for myself, I need to find a way, and we all do. We all need to find a way to show others this is what is really being done. This is really what's happening. Um, so till we can find a way to show, you know, what's being done. You know, and there's a lot of big controversy, a lot of debates over the clarity of video footage, photos, and you know, and I'm gonna bring up Corey. Corey is actually, you know, he's made some good points, and you know, and I know a lot of people don't agree with how he comes out with his approach. Or I like to say he's a little bit more aggressive, you know, and you know, but you know, if you kind of take what he says, even though people don't agree with a lot of what he says, I believe it's safe to say with a lot of what he comes at and explains, it makes a lot of sense. He brings up a lot of good points, and I think he's just one of the few that are kind of tired and aggravated over, you know, a lot of the stuff people will post a picture of a bunch of bushes and throw circles in them, man, or just we've lately even without circles. Look at that squash. Look at this big guy. You know, there's so many times I kind of feel what Corey's coming at. You know, I seen him not long ago in one of the with one of the forums, and he was he did get a little out of hand in the forum. He did get pissed off, and he was cussing. But the thing is, at the same time, I was like, I knew where he was coming from, and the Bigfoot community is getting out of hand with this, and people are, you know, I don't even know how to go with this. I mean,
when you have people,
they take it overboard sometimes.
Yeah, when you have people, and I've noticed you need to have a certain way to do this. Because if it's going to be one certain way, they're going to say, well, you're going to need this, you're going to need that, you're going to need a shitload of money. Bull crap. It doesn't make a damn difference who you are, how you research, as long as you get out there and you do what you do good. Yeah, because science is going to get it, but they're going to get it from us dumb people. That's the only way they're going to get it. Till then, they're just a bunch of box of rocks standing around waiting like, I wish they'd hear them, and I wish they'd hear them give us some good information so we could make ourselves look good by telling them.
I think science has already got it.
He's got their own.
What's that, Leo?
Researchers.
I said I think science has already got it.
Perhaps. I mean, like, I believe, you know, there's a lot of science labs. Science, I believe, is government related, which that's safe to say because there is. That's fact. There is government agencies that have their own science. You know, they're scientists in laboratories. There are things that they're not going to bring out and reveal because they're always doing experiments. There's cryptid species that come wash up on shorelines that people can't explain.
Think about the number of retired game wardens in the Northwest that after they retire, say they were told anytime they come across a Bigfoot print, wipe it out in the road, dust it out with their foot. You know, I think the government knows the science now, and they're all just denying it to keep people from running in the woods and try and kill them all, or for the lumber business, or for any number of reasons. The government doesn't feel like we should know. And that's my belief.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's not being said and shared, and for whatever reason, you know, it could all be what we've discussed before. It could be a lot of it could be all you know, for economical reasons, you know, the economy, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It could be for other reasons too. I mean, we do know there's other governments that do acknowledge their species. Because a lot of them welcome the study and the research of these species, so they could learn, more about them. You know, um, well, it's like in these other countries and in these other areas, the locals don't make no big deal out of it. So I mean, perhaps they don't have the same economical problems as that our government might look at as far as a possible threat.
I don't. Seems like,
But
and I can't. Don't quote me on it, but seems like Vietnam. Um. Um. What did you just say, Daniel?
for the different governments acknowledging,
Agrees that they're there.
right? Yeah, they
Yeah.
acknowledge them and welcome the
Acknowledge
research
that.
and study of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
the the Yeti.
yeah, yeah,
All of the old local Tibetans, agree it's there and have sightings and whatever. Is smaller, I think, there, and in Vietnam too. But yes, there are a lot of, and the Yowie even in Australia. I don't know if Australia actually acknowledges it, but there is a lot of talk and sightings and things.
oh yeah, the Yowie, yeah, all these different regions, Asia, different parts of Asia, they all these legend, people are documenting all these physical sightings, and whatever, there's people actually seeing something. I mean, regardless if, some I do believe, I was asked this question, I don't know if it was you, Fred, or somebody had asked me, um, like, what percentage do you believe are, as far as the sightings and everything are accurate, I mean, that there is totally unsure, but my belief, my theory, my opinion is that I believe I once stated it was a 60%, 60% accurate, 40% possible misidentification. Um, but then if you want to break that down into three parts, I believe it's a 60% accurate, 30% uh, misidentification, and maybe a 10%, attention seekers, bullshit, lies, Um, so I mean, I believe you can throw that in there. I believe it's safe to say that too. Uh, but
All right,
you know,
let's take Timber Giant Bigfoot for example. All right, he did the video on what they call Big Red, which was supposedly everybody said from a dog to a chimpanzee or a orangutan or something like that, and come to find out, it actually was a female squatch with a baby. But look what he had to go through. That's why you don't see him on here no more. I mean, he's still on here, and I'm still friends with him. But he got ridiculed so bad for that video. But actually, that video was real. It was not hoaxed. That was a reddish orange female squatch with a baby.
I remember Timberjack, and I have not seen him lately.
No, I still see him. He's one of my friends.
I guess I was on the you know what I'm saying, like the ER, like the ECBRO. I was on the Timberjack thing and not his specific friend. But yeah, that I've not seen him lately on Facebook.
Yeah, he's still around, but he kind of slacked back a little bit, but he went through a whole bunch of crap before he was proven right, and he did not push it.
Yeah,
and
and you know
everything
what?
like
It's funny you say that
that.
because I believe it. I think it's the same situation with a lot of people in the field. I don't care if somebody's just been into it for a day and then already, and is trying to share their thoughts and opinions, or somebody who's been doing it for years, without a degree, who's been sharing information, photos, or whatever kind of evidence they have to bring to the table.
Right.
Everyone's
Well,
going
it's
to get
like
ridiculed and mocked for whatever reasons.
right now. Look at that
And I
that
think
picture. Look at that picture I sent you yesterday. The one with the red square. You said I can't see what it
yeah,
is, and I said zoom in on it because I had cleared it up and darkened it a little bit. And
right.
you seen something the same as I did, but the question is, what was it? And you sent a picture underneath of it, what you thought it was. That's the exact same thing I said it was. But it was.
Oh, I was actually being funny when I did that.
No, actually,
Hold
that's
on, I'll go back. I'll pull it.
yeah. I mean,
Hold on, where'd it go? It's under there somewhere. I hope I didn't go
because
past it.
because what I did, I went on this thing called Photor, Fotor, and it's a link where you could work on your pictures. And all I did was, I went to solid negative, and if it was negative, there wouldn't have been anything in that spot, right? So I took it off of that. Yeah. Now, what I did to this picture here, I took. Now, when you go negative and turn it around, there should be nothing there on negative. All
Right.
right. It showed an outline of something that was solid black. I'm like, okay. So all I did was put it back to the original, and I darkened it and lightened it. I darkened it and lightened it, darkened it, lightened it, and I kind of worked it in and out a little bit, and that's what I come up with. So it's that right there is very debatable. But what you put there, yeah. But think
I
about
was only doing that.
yeah,
I was only being funny with that. That's what I was
yeah,
doing with that there.
right. But I'll tell you what, if you take that photograph and you copy it and save it, and then you take and put it on a link that you can that allows you to help clean a picture up. All right, the way I learned was if you take a photograph and you take it to complete negative, if it was pareidolia, there would be nothing there, nothing except blob, or better yet, bushes and shit like that, trees and stuff. But when you take and zoom it in and clean it up, you see a face and you see a shape of a body. That's close as
Now,
I
let
can
me go
get.
to the first original picture you shared.
All right.
Is this what you're talking about? That was supposedly in that image that we just had up right here.
No. This here is that juvenile that I over zoomed on. I cleaned that up. You can see his eyes, his nose, and his mouth. You can look up top. You can see his head. The purple and the dark. You got the purple as it's his face, but the dark spots are his eyes and his nose, and you can see his mouth down here at the bottom of it. That's a face. I just, I couldn't clean it up anymore because I over zoomed on it.
I was
Right.
talking and I was muted. Yeah, I got that when I saw it yesterday. That that day and I figured that when I saw it yesterday.
I sent the photograph to Sharon. Does seeing this picture? She says I see a brow line. I see two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and I see the hairline. I mean, that's the clear. I mean, for some that was 15 to 20
you
feet
can
away.
see it in that picture. Yeah.
And I over zoomed on it, but I mean, if I had another type of software, I could clean it up even more, but I mean, it's interesting what it is at the most. I couldn't believe I caught it, but I do know there were 4 around me that day.
Right. Now we are getting ready to come to a close pretty soon. Do either one of you guys have any last questions they want to throw out there that I might be able to answer real quick?
Well, I'm questioned out.
How about you, Leo?
What do you hope to experience at our camp out in May?
Well, I would love to have a Squatch come out in clear view. I mean, that's I think everyone's hopes and desires because I will have my night. I have my night gear. I got my night vision binocular. That's it's my new one that I did a field test on my. If anyone wants to see my field test video on that, it's my Aurora Plus night vision binocular, which it also records. Um, I mean, I just about got used to that. I will be playing around with that this whole weekend, tomorrow night, Saturday night, and hopefully maybe pick something up. I will also have my other night vision gear. Now, Greg Corbin will be there coming up from Virginia Beach. Him and his son will be there. Perhaps he might be able to work. See my no,
or this
weekend.
weekend. Oh, this weekend.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he's coming up this weekend. So he'll be headed up tomorrow morning. Now maybe he's a little bit more I guess inclined to technology. He might be able to use my other night vision device that has a video output. He might be able to get it to record because that thing there, man, I really want to show everybody how awesome that footage is on it. I mean, the thing is, it's so clear, and it has 3 power settings to the infrared, and you could also use it without infrared. If you have just a little bit of light from, like, say, your moonlight, you could use the setting on it without. I mean, you can see as far as you can during the daytime with that thing at nighttime. That thing is a very powerful device I have, but besides my night vision gear, I'll be playing around. I'll have my FLIR. I'll be putting my FLIR to use as well. So I'm hoping to bring home a story and some evidence to share with everybody. And
I hope you do. And by May, you'll have you should have all that equipment figured out down pat.
Well, my one night vision binocular, my real good one. I've had that for about a couple years now, and I'm still trying to figure out how to throw video output on that. Because I have a DVR to hook up to it. The only problem is I don't know. Maybe it's the wrong DVR because it's actually my dash cam that I have, which maybe it's not compatible with that. Yeah, it's probably not compatible with it. But there is a certain type of DVR that I know that will work according to what I've researched through YouTube on that device. But right now it's just out of my budget at the current moment. But yeah, eventually I'll get it. Eventually I'll get it to go. I'll have the right equipment to put with it to use to record and everything. But yeah, I'll have my audio. I'll be setting my audio out there. And for the last almost month now, about 3 weeks to a month, in the area we're going, a couple miles out back behind the lake that runs out there, I do have a trail camera that's been out there. So maybe I don't know. Maybe I might get something on there. Hopefully, I'll get something. Usually, most of the time I'll get deer or something on there. But bear, I don't know. I hope I get something cool on there. So if I do, I'll definitely share it. But and that's another thing too. This coming Monday night, this following Monday night. Oh, I was just gonna say that I do have a scheduled link shared for everybody that I will be. I'll have a scheduled show for Monday night. Then we're gonna go ahead and shoot that for 7 o'clock Monday night. Maybe discuss anything that or share anything. I'm gonna try to see if I can get Greg. I don't know if Greg will be able to jump on or not, but it'd be cool if Greg could come on too, and we could talk and discuss anything we've experienced out there. He's gonna have his photo. He's got good cameras. He's gonna bring in what he can. I just hope we're right there from camp. A lot of our night investigation is going to be right there at camp because that's where everything's I had reported happened to campers right there at that very spot. Campers actually have had their RV campers pushed and messed with late at night, and at the early mornings, when there's no one else around. So
Why do you think? Why
there's
do
a
you?
trackway that was found right outside that
Yeah.
camp location. So hopefully we'll find and get something. I'm hoping.
Yeah. Why do?
Hopefully.
Why do you?
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Why do you think Squatches like to push on campers? Do you think it's out of enjoyment?
I think they do it just to bug you.
Well, I think they're either they're messing with you to intimidate you, like, hey, you're in my area, get the heck out of here, because I believe in this specific area, because this is right on the West Virginia borderline right here, and I believe they're actually a little aggressive in this area. I mean, in this area, one of the experiences I've had out of this area in the past, I was up behind the lake, not too far behind it. I was walking along, and I thought I heard this hard, loud power knock up over the top of High Ridge on the backside of the lake. When I decided to start approaching that area, I had 2 tree knocks to my far left. I didn't see what might have been what made them, but I had 2 tree knocks. I mean, they're in that area. They're there. So, I mean, there's areas I'm kind of developing a pattern of where I'm going to try to do some focus on it in here. Since the little bit of scouting I've done, I kind of pinpointed a couple of areas from where the trackway came from just this past year that I showed a photo evidence of. And right there where we're going to be camping, with that between there and where the tracks were, we're going to be pretty much working the dead center of that area. And we're going to do some nighttime investigation. We may not just stay directly at the camp, because I know when I told Greg to tell his son, because it's the last time they were up here, we didn't get to really do any good nighttime investigations, but we're going to do it this time. We're doing it, and I know his son's excited about it. And so they're looking forward to getting out there. We're well prepared. I got all my gear, packed and ready to go. Well, not some of the small stuff is not packed, but I got my spotlights and my night vision right here. I got like 5 different headlamps. I got all. I'm just geared up. I got my. We're gonna be I got my 2-way radios right here because we'll probably split up a little bit, and scout around. And like I said, I'm ready to put it all to use. It's all going to be used. So, yeah, but yeah, I think I don't know. I think they're a little aggressive in this area. I believe they're a little bit more bold. I want to find out for myself. That's what I think it's going to be interesting camping out in tents. Just I don't know what it is in this area, and this part of this area here too. There's been a lot of mountain lion sightings in this area, so yeah, we're gonna have to take a little precaution. So we'll see. I'm all pumped. I'm excited. So because I'm not gonna stay up too late tonight. That's why we're gonna end this soon, because I'm gonna get up. I want to head out there as soon as possible, so and get set up. Because when you pull into the area. There's a main gate that goes into the rest of the area, which you got to park there and walk in a little bit, which it's not a far walk to set up camp and everything, but it's during the off season they do leave the gate closed, and actually within another week or 2 they should be opening it up, because I know spring gobble, a lot of people go in there and hunt on their hunting seasons. There's turkeys off the yin yang out there. I mean, there's a lot of heavy population of turkeys. The deer are all over in there. I mean, last time I was in there, I heard a bunch of turkeys up ahead of me, and I ended up coming across in a dry creek bed, saw a couple turkey tracks. I swear they were almost as big, or if not bigger, than my hand. I mean, big turkey tracks.
Oh, they get big. They get big.
Yeah. I think a lot of the animals in this specific area are big. I don't know. I like to get a real nice sized massive bear on my game camera, because I've always, that's another thing I've always done. I've always come across different animals I picked up off of my trail cameras, but I think I'm gonna start saving and documenting all the wildlife. I start printing up, storing them on my computer and also printing them out, and kind of make a separate.
Tell you what you do.
scrap, like more like a scrapbook. Yeah.
Take your jar of peanut butter and set your game camera up, and right across from it on a tree, smear some up about 6 foot up in the tree. Smear it around the tree, and just leave it.
Yeah.
If there's a bear in that area.
Do you remember what I did in up behind the camp? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know there's bears in the area. Last time I was out there, I seen all the fresh torn up signs from the bears and digging into the trees and stuff.
Yeah, well, if you put peanut butter up right in front of the game camera, you'll definitely get one on camera.
Yeah. Yeah, do you remember that? I did that. I set my trail camera up behind the camp there in your area.
Yeah.
And I smeared a little bit on a couple of the small saplings, and then I put the jar of peanut butter on a dead log on the ground.
Yeah.
And I seen the bear playing around in the area, and then in one picture, it shows the bear walking off or running off with a whole jar of peanut butter in its mouth.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. He was a small bear, but yeah.
Yeah, I found
I don't know.
I found some. When I was going, I got about 30 yards from the entrance to the back trail of Kennedy Fields, and I found a massive pile of coyote scat. But here's the kicker: 98% of that scat was bear hair.
What?
Bear hair.
The coyote scat had bear hair in it?
Yeah. The whole thing was nothing but hair.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what killed the bear? The coyotes or something else?
All I think of is if it was a pack of, because squatches don't like messing with bears. But apparently either this bear was dead or it was dying.
Well,
I don't know. Bullet holes or anything?
No.
Yeah, you know what? That's what I was going to say.
What?
No bullet hole. So it died of old age or...
Yeah, it could have died, but I mean, I've seen coyote scat with a ton of possum, coon, and stuff like that, but this sucker was nothing but bear hair and a couple of seeds, and that was it. I'm like, wow. I've never seen that before.
So the question is, what killed the bear?
I mean, I can go back out there tomorrow and take a picture of it, But
it ain't a life or death matter for us to know, but just saying, did it die of old age? Did a pack of coyotes manage to kill it, or
I don't know.
Did
but
it get shot?
I'll tell you one thing: I've never seen a scat pile with that much hair in it. So that's something. That's something.
Another possibility is if.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say another possibility is if could have been a wandering cub that wandered off too far and pack of coyotes got a hold of it. I don't know, just a theory. I don't know. Could have been any of the things that you guys suggested. It could have been like what Lael said, a dying bear, old age, or a bear that might have already just died somewhere, and because I know a lot of these coyotes they stay in these dens and stuff, and like I said, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the wildlife, they observe each other and they know where they all stay. Perhaps maybe the bears found the cave where they wandered into, and they found the old bear cave somewhere. Because we know there's caves up there and old mines up through there. And, I mean, perhaps these coyotes they make their rounds and they cover a lot of ground. So anything's possible. They could have scavenged and ate something 2 miles away and happened to crap it out there.
Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities.
So, but man, I'll tell you what, I'm glad we were able to have this little show tonight, and it worked out pretty good. I think we had with all the questions you guys asked, I think it turned into a pretty good discussion. Like I said, for viewers, if you guys want to
Hello?
I'm here. I
No,
think we lost Daniel.
who's Donna?
I've been muting myself unless I had something I wanted to say. I think we lost Daniel. We lost Sam sometime back.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad show. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. I think we're still alive, though.
Yes, we are.
Oh, well.
And I think that you and me, Fred, did a darn good job.
Yeah, we're working on it.
And Daniel, too. He'll be back in a minute to finish up.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, that scat I found was very unusual. I've never seen it with that much hair in it in my entire life. And I've seen
But
a
you
lot.
didn't find the bear, but
No,
you
no,
sure
just
it was
found.
bear hair.
Yeah, just found a scat.
Yeah, it could have been a baby bear or an old bear that died or one that got shot.
I don't know
No
about getting
telling.
shot. I don't know about getting shot. You know, but it was interesting.
Yes, I agree.
He lost connection. I'm coming back. Lost connection again. Dang, yeah, man, I swear.
Well, he's
But it,
gonna have to.
yeah, but anyway, folks, you
There
know,
he is.
no, that was me.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, folks, you know, we had a good show tonight and everything, you know, and I hope some of the questions I asked did touch down on a few things, you know, as far as bear concerned, you know, people say, and I will say this as a researcher myself, I'm an avid hunter and an outdoorsman, and I can tell anybody for a fact in Virginia, if it's, I don't care what time of year it is, they will, if they smell you, they will run from you. Now, what Daniel and them saw that was a family of squatches because I turned them on to that spot. I turned them they was gonna be at, and I wanted them to see them, and that's good and everything. You know, it's not very often that you can say here, come here, this place, you'll see
All
them. You
right,
know, and
I'm back again.
okay,
I'm sorry, everybody.
oh, it's all right.
Yeah, but we're gonna go ahead. Hold on. Hold on. My thing's messing up again. Do you
Oh,
guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can see that mug too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this before it disconnects me again. So, um, yeah, I definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We actually had quite a few viewers watching at one time, which was awesome. Um, so again, I think you guys didn't hear me. I think you guys stopped hearing me earlier when I was trying to talk and close out earlier. But Monday night, hopefully, we're gonna have something here on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, like I said, I'm gonna try to get Greg Corbin to participate if all possible. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully we'll have a story to tell and have some evidence to share. And I'll probably try to post some videos and everything. So, um, thank you everybody for tuning in. This is Daniel Benoit with the ECBRO, and this is watching. Thank you for watching the ECBRO Discovery News Blogcast, and hope you got a little bit of better understanding about about me and my viewpoints on things. I'm always up for questions later on. We like to question each other, and I have no problem with you guys questioning me. And thank you guys again. God bless. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the YouTube channel here, ECBRO98.